part.
Yeah, I'm sure it's getting tough. The whole
Yeah.
concept of this whole time difference.
Well, no, if I'm dealing with the States or if I'm dealing with Europe, it's okay. But when it's both of them, then
Hmm.
it's 7 a.m. in the US and, 1 a.m. here. I have another group, which is just a social, not professional, where it'll be 6 a.m. in LA and, 1 a.m. here and then every other time zone around the world because there are people all over who participate in it. But it's, yeah, it's,
But you can
it's
say
real
hi.
funny.
Yeah, you can hi. Abe, you can say hi to Donna and to me also.
Yeah.
Hi. Hi, Vikram, and hi, Donna.
Uh, Hello.
Uh, uh,
I don't think we've met.
no, you're from Melbourne, are you?
I'm not from Melbourne, but I'm in Melbourne.
That
In
part we'll get to know.
Melbourne.
Yeah, Abe, you can't ask her any questions now. Everything you get to know a little later.
Yes.
I don't know where I'm from anymore.
You-
Um, so how many people will be interrogating me? Only two because
only
we're on a
me,
bad time zone?
only me. No one else is allowed to do that.
I thought other people were allowed to jump
Yes,
in,
they
no?
can. They can at some stage, at a much later stage.
Oh, okay.
Look,
Well, I don't know. I just want to see what you're going to do with all those photos.
look, the idea has always been that basically the fact that it goes on YouTube, people watch it for there because the problem is like Andrew's show went on for 4 hours. Now people have realized that they can't do that without a break. Andrew did it, I did it, the other people there did it, but for everyone to do it at a stretch for 4 hours is definitely tough. I can understand from their perspective. So now
Yeah, no,
everyone's
I
watching
think.
it on YouTube, and on the show, only those people like Kato's here, Kato's in Japan.
Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Hello, Donna. Hi.
Hi. Pleased to meet you. Your
Very
name
nice
sounds
meeting
familiar. I think I've um did you do one of these before? Because I've listened to some of them, but not complete
Yeah,
ones.
yeah, he's a regular. No, he's a regular
Yeah,
on the
I
show.
thought that's why yeah, I've seen you. Yes.
So that's what happens. We have regulars. That's what we have. Okay, Donna, you are a co-host. Please don't end the meeting for all. For that,
I
just
won't.
don't do that.
Unless you ask me questions I don't like or a question
Oh my God, that's going to be a tough one.
or put me a proposal I can't refuse or I don't care. So I've
Okay, so
won this and you can ask me a question about that. So
has to come after the childhood photographs. It has to come after that. Those are very
okay.
nice. Let me put that up. So the so that's my job, putting that up. Yes,
Oh
that's the
God, I can't believe I actually sent these.
very nice. I mean, imagine.
Um, it's there have been three huge plastic boxes filled with photographs in my garage, probably for 10 years, and who knows for how many years before that in New York before I moved here. And today I finally, or started a bit yesterday, finally went through them. So I need to thank you, not just for inviting me to speak, but for getting me to start sorting through all of the things that have just been piling up for so long. And that's not counting all the digital ones.
No, it's good. Something good has come out of it, which means I hope more good things come out of it.
Yeah.
Look, the whole idea was, Donna, that people
Yeah.
should actually get to know mediators. According to me, mediators are nice people. People should know them, and it's not that. And it's not the mediator as in the stamp mediator. The fact is, there's a mediator mindset,
Yeah.
and over time, over these up till now, already I can see a chain there in terms of the similarities in thought process, in background also. It's very interesting. There is similarity in the background also. So I think
Mm.
there is some linkage there. So it's maybe with getting to whether you are, of course, you can't be made a mediator, but
I
are
don't know
there?
if I'm a born mediator. I can't tell by those photos, but
We'll get to know. But before I start, let me just, why don't you also speak to Nicholas? Nicholas, you want to say hi to Donna?
I don't. Oh, I don't see his tile. So hold on.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay. So he's logged
there,
in
oh
and
yeah.
he's off.
There's no video, but
Perfect. He's logged in and he's off.
yes.
So I go to me, we can start because I'm telling you, there won't be people here. It's finally it's a YouTube thing now because of the time thing. And I can't look, the point is if you're going through your story, the whole idea is not to cut you off. If it goes for 4 hours, it goes for 4 hours. I mean, not going to
I
be a
don't.
aspect at all.
Well, see, that might be 11:30 p.m.
I know, I
for
know, I
those of
know.
us in Australia. We might have to take a dinner break or a wine break or
I
something.
know. Look, I told you we went through 4 hours without a break. It just look, you're so involved. I mean, I'm involved. You're involved in your story. It just is so interesting that the
Um,
whole concept of a break. I mean, it's up to you. You're the guest
I
here.
don't know. I've never told the story like this, so we'll see how it goes. It's completely new for me.
Okay, so we'll have to just start from there. And where did this happen? Where were you born?
Where? In New York, in Brooklyn.
Okay, so this
There's a
was
Brooklyn here in Australia too, but I think the UK gave names to many towns in all of its former colonies. So we've got the same ones here and there.
no, but in terms the problem is I can't even ask you what year. Now that's where the problem lies.
No,
I
no,
can't
that
ask you.
well, you can ask if you want, but you probably won't get an answer on that
Exactly.
one.
So that's why I'm not getting because normally what is interesting is that the period that you were born in, or the situation in the country there, and generally in the world, it's interesting to find out what circumstances a person is born in. Now the only thing is with you, tell us the circumstances, we'll know the year also.
Yeah. I'm not sure of the circumstances and the history. I don't know. Honestly, I wouldn't have even thought of that. I'm not sure. Uh, no, I don't know. Yeah, I wouldn't even know how to answer that because I've never thought of it,
Yeah,
even
because
if I wanted to answer.
the thing is that the circumstances in the
Yeah.
house, in the world, the area, place
Well,
that you are born in, according to me, they have some kind of influence on a person as they grow up. Definitely. I mean, we don't know.
well, no,
Yeah.
I think being born in New York is definitely something that has an influence on you. So where I was born was Brooklyn, and then when I was about 4, which is probably, I don't know, maybe a little bit older than the picture on the bottom, because I'm not even sure when that's from. We moved out to the suburbs in Long Island, and that was before. That was 2. That was negotiation skills. So that was probably in Brooklyn, and there was this little bully kid who would always try to take the ball away from you, or if you were painting, take your paintbrush away. And I put negotiation skills, but I think I was probably being more of a judge at that time, or more of a lawyer. And I've always been a Philadelphia lawyer, which is defending people. So that was me and this kid, and he was doing this to other kids. So I think I wasn't ready to punch him, even though it looks like
Like
that in
looks
the
like that. It looks
picture.
like that. Yeah, exactly.
I probably wanted to, but so
No,
that wasn't my facilitative version at that age, but it was standing up for people's rights, mine and another girl, because he kept taking our toys away, or we were painting a fence with mortar, which is absolutely useless. But at that age, you amuse yourself as you can. So
no, but this is
that was
also interesting. The fact of standing up for your rights, also, as we saw with Ken, also the fact of him being involved in the civil rights movement and everything. So there's definitely something there for sure. But
Yeah.
but
Oh
what
no,
if
there was, and continuing afterwards, I was always what they call a Philadelphia lawyer. I was always defending people in school, everywhere. Whenever I saw something that was wrong, I would always open my mouth and often get in trouble for it, but and stick up for people. So
but this we've gone way ahead. I mean, in terms of your being able to and your growing up in Brooklyn, what do you remember of Brooklyn as such, and the
I,
people around you and everything?
at that age, very little, to be honest, because we moved to the suburbs when I was 4. And I remember the McDonald's, unfortunately, and I remember it said something like, over 10,000 sold, and then it went up into the millions, but we rarely went there. What I remember about Brooklyn is later that I always would go back and stay with my cousins, and because I liked it better than the suburbs. But from between the 8 up to the age of 4, very little. I remember that my parents loved taking me out to dinner or to restaurants, because at 2 years old I could eat a steak, which caused me to never be thin for the rest of my life. But there's not a lot I remember about Brooklyn in that period, because as I said, we left when I was about 4 and moved out to the suburbs. Lots of parents, they do that. They move from the city to the suburbs, supposedly to give their children a better life. I was much happier in the city.
But in terms of the, I mean, is Brooklyn diverse in terms of the people?
Oh, now it's changed, immensely. But back then, I mean, there were a lot of immigrants there, and in the other pictures of the family, you'll see that my parents came from different countries, like most Americans, like many Australians also. So, but there were also different sections of Brooklyn. So there were, sections where you had, the blacks who lived there. You had sections where there were Jewish people. Now you have Russian sections, you have Colombian sections, you have all different. They're almost now they're all, I think, even more, not really ghettos, but it is fairly diverse. But I'm not sure New York back then was as diverse as it is now, although it was. But again, when I was there up until 4, I didn't really see that that
So, but
much.
I mean, you wouldn't remember playing in the playground or something like that. Those images are not there. I mean, you would not have those.
No, I remember swimming, which is the next one,
Yeah.
because I started swimming when I was about 2 or a little bit under that. So that I remember, because I've been swimming all my life, and later on ended up becoming a swimming instructor, and I scuba dive. So that's mainly what I pulled out the ones that I remembered a bit, because I thought, if not, if you ask me questions about things I don't remember at all.
But I'm quite. I mean, in the last guest, Lisa was a swimmer at the state level in the US, and then she was also training for the nationals and everything. So the
Yeah.
whole swimming thing, I'm not saying there's a linkage there, but it's interesting.
I don't know if it was her or someone else who spoke about the jitterbug, and I have some photos because one of my my aunt and uncle were champions. So
So that's interesting. But in terms of as such images of childhood, when does a person actually start actually seeing those? I mean, or maybe snatches of it. When does that really happen?
I don't know, and one of the things is when you look at photos, you kind of wonder, do you have a real memory, or is it the photo that's your memory?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if
And
you, I mean,
nowadays with videos, even more so, I guess.
but I mean, do some snatches of images there come out sometime, a few incidents or something like that?
No, not really. I haven't seen them in a long time. I just dug them out of a box today. And when I saw them, I remembered them, but they're I haven't probably looked at them in many, many years. I've moved a lot. I've moved from New York to France, back to New York, then Australia. So things get put in boxes, and you don't see them for a very long time.
So I
So
think
I don't really have a lot of memories from that time. I have a lot of travel photos that I didn't send to you, and I could talk to you about those.
definitely.
My husband put that in, newborn with doll. Excellent.
No, but tell me, let's have a look at fashion at that time. This is,
Oh,
I mean,
oh,
that's also
please.
interesting to see.
My mother used to dress us, and she used to take us to this store called Lester's in Brooklyn. Maybe not at that age yet, but for every, school year, and, get us all these new clothes, and we'd have our like clothes for the school year. So she was very into fashion, and I think that's stuck, although, I probably dress more conservatively, which I told you about the necklace, but
Yeah,
we'll talk
that's
later.
gonna come.
No,
Yes.
no, but I dress more conservatively for work, and that's part having lived in France for so many years, and also working with barristers, and so yeah. But I don't have a lot of memories from that period, to be
But
honest. And
Leicester still exist?
I have no idea. I don't think so.
Hmm.
I don't think so. I think that whole area has probably been gentrified, and it's probably now a bunch of yuppies or hipsters and bars and restaurants down there.
Hmm. But where in the suburbs did you move?
Uh, Long Island, which is
Okay.
so I don't know if you know New York at all. So New York, there are 5 boroughs, and Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, and the Bronx are, along with Manhattan, which everyone knows, New York
Yeah.
City as being Manhattan, but those are all part of what's called New York City. And then there's an island called Long Island, which is where people used to move more, except for now it's so overpopulated, which is actually very nice parts of it, because you've got the bay on one side and the ocean beaches and barrier islands on the southern side. So, and then it's depending on how far out you go, it's a 30-minute, 45-minute, 50-minute drive or train ride into the city.
But would you have those memories now? Those
Yeah, I
natural
remember not wanting to. I remember not wanting to leave. I remember going to the new house and being out in the suburbs and not being very happy about it, because I preferred to be back in the city. And as soon as I was old enough, which would have probably been even at 8, 9, 10 years of age, I would go back into Brooklyn where my cousin lived and stay with her and go out with her, because I never liked suburbs. even when I was young. Well, maybe not at 4, but even so, I wasn't. I would have rather stayed in more of a city. I like the country, I like nature, and I like cities, but that in between,
Hmm.
not really, because you don't have the benefits of nature. You don't have, the land, the property, but you don't have any public transportation either. So it's kind
Okay.
of that in between, that's just personal preference. So I do remember going out there in the beginning, being a bit excited about the house. I remember when they built the pool, I liked that. But that was some years later. I think I was about 11 at that point.
But that's at
So
home,
more
right?
memories from later on.
Yeah, but that's at home. That's it. The pool is at home.
Yeah. Yes.
That's an advantage of the suburbs. You have a pool on your backside, at the backside, not your, I mean, in the sense of the at your
Yeah.
home.
Well, yeah.
So that,
Although one of my friends who's a client also in Manhattan, you have pool on the roof.
not bad. Yeah, those are the privileges. Some people have those privileges.
Uh,
But then your
uh,
father was in Japan, you
this
said.
is yes, this is a funny story. So this was World War II, and my father's version, and as you'll see with later on, my father has very interesting versions sometimes of stories. He was a lawyer for over 50 years and an amazing memory, but he claims that when they heard that he was on the ship going over to Japan, that was the moment that Japan surrendered. And so he never really did much except for go out to bars and I think sell cigarettes and learn enough Japanese to be able to sing in Japanese whenever we went out to Japanese restaurants in New York, and he had enough sake. So I just put that in there because I thought it was also a little bit amusing. But that was him. Obviously before I was born.
But what are your memories of your parents growing up?
Memories of my parents growing up. Well, my father worked a lot because he was going to school to go to law school. That was when we were living in the city, and even when we moved out to the Long Island, the suburbs. So I don't have memories of him being in Japan because that was before he
Yes,
was
yes,
married
obviously.
and before I was born. But I mean, look, I always my father was always we always had I guess a closer relationship maybe than with my mother. So, and I think just the legal part, I always wanted to be a lawyer all my life. I then deviated for a while, as you'll see when we go through some of these photos, but came back to the law. So my memories as a child, I don't know.
I mean, of course, look, one is, of course, with the relationship with your parents and the friends that you had and the kind of things that you were doing. There would be, I'm sure there are memories of that. That part
Oh, there are
doesn't.
many memories. I mean, there are memories of things that I did, or I used to have in the neighborhood. There were all these younger kids, and see, that goes back to probably more when I was about 10 or 12, and I
Yeah.
remember taking them out clamming one day, and we didn't realize that the tide had come in. We were on a little sand island, and walking back, one of them barely had their chin above the water, and I thought I was going to get killed if I
Wow.
drowned the neighborhood kids. I mean, they're I mean, there are all kinds of memories, like that, playing ball against, what was it called? I guess handball, even on when we used to play at a wall where you play handball as opposed to, table tennis now or squash, later on. Just trying to remember, I don't know. Memories of back then. I just remember my father, always kind of as a lawyer. I mean, there he looks really young. I don't really recognize him there because I don't remember him ever looking like that. I remember his hippie stage, even as a lawyer. I remember other things, but
But those pictures
uh,
we don't have. We don't have this hippie stage. Those would have been interesting.
oh, I might have. I spent all day on this. I didn't know. We were trying. My poor husband was trying to collate them all, and he went out tonight. I told him he could go out and have dinner somewhere else with some friends instead of staying here. I think I might have one somewhere with him having a bit longer hair, but I'd have to look back. I don't know. I just tried to put as many together as I could. But that was much later. That was a different stage, probably in the, I don't know if it was the 70s or the 60s when he
I see,
was
yeah. Mhm.
yeah.
No, but in terms of the friends as such, would you even have a memory of those? Because those.
Friends, of course. I had I remember I remember with one of my friends who I was friends with her for many years, and now we've just lost contact. When we used to play dolls, like Barbie dolls, we always used GI Joes instead of Ken because we, I don't know if anyone knows what they are,
Yeah.
but you know,
Yeah.
Ken was the guy who went with Barbie, who was kind of like the California blonde guy, and the bathing suit and G.I. Joe was like the army guy. So I remember things like that. I remember I remember, well, again, my sense of justice, which probably won't come across very well, is there was a kid across the street. I didn't really like him very much, but he killed a praying mantis once, and it was illegal to kill a praying mantis because they were a protected species. So there was another house kind of catty corner across the street, and they had several teenage boys who were a bit rowdy sometimes. So one day the cops came because, you know, I don't know, they came to check on something. And I went over and, you know, I was 5 years old, I think, and told them that they should arrest the other 5-year-old boy because he broken the law and killed a praying mantis. I don't know. This is really going to be on YouTube. I'm not sure I should be telling these stories.
These are the stories you have to tell us. These are the ones. He's not going to catch you now. I'm sure he's not going to catch you now.
And then one day, one of the guys from across the street, Mitchell, I can't remember what their name was. I don't know, they borrowed a knife or something. So he came up the side door to the kitchen to return the knife. And my mother almost called the cops because she thought someone was there ready to attack her. But, you know, it was just the kid returning the thing he'd borrowed. But and since they had a bit of a reputation, but no, there were, you know, there were tons of stories like that. I'm not sure how many I remember. It's
So that
been
was like
longer than I care to remember ago.
so that was another day in the suburbs.
Yeah, no, yeah. But there were yeah, that was later, you know, pool parties. Oh, that was about when I was 11, I think. But we always had we used to stay at sometimes when my parents would go away, they used to like to go on cruises at the time. And it was kind of nice because, you know, you'd always dress up in the evening, although I've never been on one. So that's not true. I have been on one, and there was a ship I was going to show a picture of that I don't have there. But I can talk about it later. In my interpreting career, because I had a hiatus and a separate career. But so we'd stay with the next door neighbors, and we were, you know, every morning, the husband at the time would just start, you know, doing this like kind of wake up call, like, you know, Marine boot camp style, you know, singing, you got to get up, and like yelling through the whole house. And, you know, I loved staying there, and my sister hated it because, you know, I guess I was just always more independent, which is probably why I moved to France when I was about 18 or so. But I was just so happy to have my parents away and be in a different environment. And it's kind of interesting when you look at that too, how, you know, families, even in the same family, it's not just my family, I think it's every family, you know, even when, you know, children are brought up in more or less the same environment, because, well, they are and they aren't, because, you know, the first, you know, born isn't treated the same as the last, especially depending on how many siblings there are in between, but you're still kind of in the same environment. And, but the personalities are just developed so differently. So there's, you know, even though obviously there's an environmental impact, I think a lot of it is an innate, is innate also. So anyway, I don't know.
But I'm just thinking that basically you have G.I. Joe on one end, you have this person from the army here, of that kind of a atmosphere. So there was some kind of army thing that you liked. There was something there.
Oh, no. I actually don't like it at all. I just found these photos today for the first time. I've never seen them before. I knew about the army, the joke about my father saying that, you know, he was the one who, you know, who stopped the war, jokingly. And I apologize because we have someone from Japan here in the panel, but, you know, it was a joke at the time. And he, luckily for him and for everyone, did nothing there other than probably just enjoy himself. But it was more that. And actually there's another thing to that. And that's that I've always been interested in languages and supposedly been good at languages. I speak a number of languages, and I had a past career involved with languages. And so, you know, 30, 40 years after, he still remembered the Japanese he'd learned there.
Wow.
And I noticed once when he was in Paris with me, and I don't have all those. I mean, I found some of the photos, but as I said, I had a half a day to put them all together because first I was just going through the boxes. We had to take photos, put them on. I noticed that he would do something that I've always done, which is whenever I'm in a foreign country, whether I understand the language or not, as long as I can read the alphabet or I learn the alphabet, I read the signs that are on it. So, you know, the Japan thing was interesting from that also, just from a linguistic standpoint.
But we didn't have any photographs of your mother there. I don't think there was.
I should in there.
Was there?
Yeah, they're family photos because there were only so many I could do, and my husband was about to kill me. There's oh, that's my father again too. Yeah, just the way so that's a semi hippie mode. There you
Yeah,
go. You
yeah.
got the long hair going there and a sweater. So as a lawyer, I mean, in court afterwards, he was always in a 3-piece suit, and you know, with a tie, pocket but that's him in the office, obviously not in hippie mode.
Yes.
I think that was his very first office, as you can see from the age when he first started out. So and that's influenced me so much because and it's actually funny too, because I mean, from the time I was 4 or 5, I was always going to be a lawyer. I mean, there was just never any doubt in my mind about it. And then I ended up moving to France and deviating, and we'll get to that at some point.
Yes.
And my sister, who was supposed to wanted to be a doctor, ended up becoming the lawyer first. And then I came back. I started and came back and did that, which is why my itinerary is anything but the beaten track.
But then, but your sister is how much older than you?
She's a couple of years younger.
Younger. Okay, that was your. Okay, when you said sister, I thought. Okay, so that was
no,
you.
That's me and that's her. Yeah, she's the
little one. She's a little one.
Yeah, that's why I said that was a couple of years older. Yeah, I was about
okay.
2. I would have been 2.5, going on 3 there probably.
But that's it. One sister. That's about it. That's it.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but in terms of her relationship with her, because a child born in the family, when you're the only one and another child comes in, what happens really? What are the dynamics there?
In the beginning, it didn't bother me much. Apparently, according to her, I teased her too much and did too many big sister things. But I don't think I'm going to share any of those with you here.
You can, whatever you can. I mean, sure.
No, look, you know, it's no, but we, you know, we she's actually she has a son who's my nephew, and well, now it's really hard since I'm here, but for many years I was kind of the surrogate father, you know, traveling with them and doing things with them. So obviously not at that age, more more when he was my age there or even afterwards. So yeah. But there are other pictures, but older. I think as you go along, I wasn't sure what I was supposed to put in, so I just grabbed what I could and tried to put them. Actually, I didn't do it. I had my husband try to at least put them on. As you can see, some of these were actually photographs and frames, and all we did today was take photos. And then had another wonderful technological issue, because the desktop, well, it's not a desktop, it's a laptop that I use as my home computer, has an old operating system on it. And apparently, and this is important information for everyone, if you have an iPhone and it's upgraded to iOS 13, I think it is, the photos are no longer JPEGs, they're HEIC format, and you can't open them anywhere else that doesn't have updated software. So we had to find a converter. We had to find a converter for all the photos that we'd taken this afternoon to be able to actually open them up and put them together in this format. So there are many, many more. I could be here for 10 hours if you wanted to see all the photos, which I won't, because I don't think anyone from Sydney will stay with me, and I'm not going to stay here until the people from other countries wake up. But it was what we were able to put together.
But in terms of, I mean, in terms of your relationship with your sister, all that, I mean, there's you being protective and all that was obviously there. I mean, you were the elder sister.
Yeah, but I don't, you know, from that age, I remember, you know, playing, you know, whatever games, you know, kids play. I remember more again from later years. I remember once she I don't know how old she would have been. Maybe she might have been about 6 or 7, and she had this really, really high fever, and and she was kind of hallucinating, and she was saying things like "mommy's in the light." I just remember, and I was just kind of laughing at her, and my parents were, you know, livid, obviously, because you're not supposed to be doing that when your little sister's sick. But yeah, so we had the teasing thing. But then also later on, when, you know, I was getting older, she would, you know, I'd let her hang around with me and my friends, even though she was 2.5 years older. But again, like I said, I used to go as soon as I turned about 10 or 11, I think. Yeah, and especially 12, I was always going back into the city where my cousin still lived in Brooklyn, and staying with, you know, her and her friends who were a couple of years older than me. And if you really want to hear like the bad stories, when we used to go to buy alcohol, I looked older than everyone, so I was the one who would take the fake proof to go and buy the wine. But
Your sister didn't go with you. Your sister stayed back in Long Island when you went to
no,
Brooklyn.
she's in Florida now. She
No,
moved to
no, that time,
Florida.
at that time, when you were younger and went to Brooklyn, she didn't come with you. So you were with
No,
your.
I would just go back and forth. I would just go there whenever I could. I mean, I was going to school in Long Island. I didn't move back to Brooklyn. I would just go every chance I got to, stay with my cousin and her friends because it was more fun.
Hmm, yeah, must be. So that part of it is obviously to some stories. I'm sure we have stories there, interesting things that you were doing in Brooklyn. What was it like? I mean,
I don't remember in Brooklyn, yes, but going, when you're in your teens and you're going out, you're going to fairs, you're going out with to parties. I remember my cousin's Sweet 16. The guys dressed in lame gold because I think at the time it was kind of rock bands, not rock, but it was I can't even remember. I can't remember what the music was back then. But
you have to remember. You have to remember.
playing games like I don't think I ever played Ring Alivio. I think that was before my time. But playing stickball in the streets. I remember just we'd go out to movies, to parties. There were a lot of parties with all of her friends who were all in Brooklyn. But that was probably when I was, obviously when I was older, when I was 10, 11, 12, going on those ages.
No, because that's interesting. What kind of movies were you watching? What kind of music? That's
I have
interesting.
no idea. I have no idea. I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah, because that's what I'm
I
saying. I don't
mean,
know.
I remember much more about afterwards, like all my travels. I had all these travel photos, but I didn't. I mean, I could share them if you want afterwards. I didn't put them in, but I remember more about. I mean, I remember traveling with my parents. I remember going to the Caribbean. I remember with my sister. That I was a little bit older. I was about 12 or 14, and we were in Jamaica. I don't know how I ended up becoming friendly with the guy was running the casino there at the time. So I got her cups of quarters and we were going in and playing at the casino, which wasn't probably particularly allowed, but down in the islands, nobody really cared what you did. So and at that point, I think I was 14. They thought I was her mother. So I don't know where my parents were.
Oh, so you look that much older, is it?
Yeah, I did. And I remember that time too. So yes, I think I was 14. I remember going with these guys, I can't remember, and another friend I'd met there. And we were driving into Kingston, which we weren't supposed to be doing either. And the guys, I was sitting in the left-hand side of the back seat, and the guy in front of me turned around like that, and I went hysterical because I didn't realize until it dawned on me that he wasn't the one driving, because obviously the difference between left and right side driving. Oh, and Jamaica was amazing. So, but again, this is older. I don't remember so much about when I was younger. I probably if I didn't think I was going to be speaking about memories at that time. I only kind of scrolled through some of the videos. I didn't listen to the whole ones, but it was really funny in Jamaica because my mother didn't want, my sister was too young to have permission to smoke at the time. And she used to always tell us that, oh, well, I only started smoking when I was 18. So, it's way too young for you. And then when my mother was Scottish, so we were in Jamaica and she sees these cigarettes and she says, oh, I used to smoke them when I was 12. And we're like, 12? Okay, forget about the 18 now. You're done. You're outed. So, and I actually still have oh no, that was Curacao, not Jamaica, where I bought that perfume that I found again recently. See,
There are memories. There are memories. Okay, because of
there are tons of memories, but
yeah.
I just don't have a lot of them when I was 6, 7. I mean, I had a little boyfriend who drew me this picture and was in love with me, and I didn't really like him much. No, I have a really big memory from then, which isn't really I don't know if it's a good one or a bad one. It's probably what caused me to go off the beaten track more, although I might have anyway. When I was in 4th grade, and you've got some school photos, which you don't really need to show. I found them.
Now
I
we have
found
to
them in the
show them.
box. It was like all my little photos from each grade that they take, from of you. And when I was in 4th grade, I was kind of bored to smithereens, and they wanted to skip me a grade. And my mother, who was always a bit fearful of things, thought since my birthday was in October, oh, I would be so much younger than all the other students. So she said no. And then from that point on, I basically did nothing because I was bored. Although it's probably what prompted me to leave high school early. I mean, I graduated early. I didn't drop out. And to then, go off to, what we call college or university, and then end up going to France, at a fairly young age, which, might not have happened if I had, maybe if I'd been skipped, I would have been more studious in maybe an intellectual way, but perhaps not, branched out into the languages as much. I mean, who knows? You can't really turn back the hands of time. And I'm not sure if I would want to anyway. It's there are always things you'd want to change, but then you have to think in life, like, well, if I change that, what would the outcome have been? I don't know what it would have been, and it might not have been what I want either. So
I think basically the concept is that if you're happy in the present, then everything has worked out well. Whatever those
and even if you're not happy in the present, it's worked out well. I mean, not happy in the present. I mean, we're dealing with COVID. I'm living in Melbourne, which isn't, professionally probably the best place for a non-Melbourne born, non-male, non-grammar school boy. So, happiness is relative, but, it doesn't mean that you're not, sorry, I'm just getting some more water, not happy with your experiences or, enjoy them. I think that, maybe if I'd been pushed into, more of a, one of those, if I'd gone to, and my high school was very good. And I actually sent you a thing about what I did there in my total immersion, which is the whole language thing. But, if I'd gone to somewhere where it had been much more demanding, then I might have, followed a more, rigorous intellectual route, but not done a lot of the other things that I did. So it's,
I mean, it's all balances out, I think, finally. But only thing what you haven't done is we should have actually started. Now I'm looking at this not because the order is not chronological. So
no, the order was like I told you that this was done.
Yeah, so because I just saw pictures of your grandmother and aunt. So
I know because I looked at Andrew's and I thought, oh no, and he had them instead of just the photos, he had them on the on the paper with so my husband is calling me from his desk behind me and saying, okay, what am I writing on this one? What am I writing on this one? Who's this? So these, other than the photo on the bottom right-hand corner, which I had, the other ones I just received so this was my aunt, and I just found a photo. I just found a couple of photos today of her, my father, and my uncle, who she just passed away recently. The one next to her on the left was my paternal grandmother. Mm-hmm. So my cousin, whom I hadn't seen in a long time, just, people drift apart, wrote to me on Facebook to say that her mother had passed away and wanted to reconnect. So she sent all the photos except for the one on the bottom, which I had framed. So the one on the bottom is my grandmother, who's the same one as the one on the left there with my grandfather. And you can see how dark they are. Everyone always told my father he looked like an Indian, American Indian, because we lived in America, obviously, because that's his father. And he would, and I used to have more matte skin too. So they came from Romania, and that's a Romanian family. And I have a list of who the people are now, but I don't really know who they are anyway. So I'm not sure it would be helpful because I just got that photo and you could see it was pieced together. Someone took it. So they're
who would these people be? What generation would this be?
So hang on a minute. Let me just see. I'm just trying to that's a wedding gown. Group Tina and Jackie, bottom row. So the bottom row here, apparently, and I'm not sure which one, is my grandmother, her. So that would have been, I think she's the same one as on the left, my great grandmother, or it might have been,
Let's see.
Yeah. So, but I didn't know.
My
grandmother passed, yeah. So I just got these literally last week, which had nothing to do with this. Just my cousin started putting some of these old photos together that she found. So, but my paternal grandfather passed away before I was born, and my paternal grandmother passed away when I was 12, about 12. And it was terrible because she was in an old age home, and that's a really topical issue here in Australia today. But at the time, they put her into this place, which was supposed to be good. And then they started, instead of just having elderly, they started bringing in people with, mental issues, which, and they need care too, but not in the same place where, the care for the elderly is really being, negatively affected because of people who have other issues, which can be aggression and, different
Yeah.
things where they should have been separated anyway. So, and it's really funny because my aunt there, who looks very young, she's the one who just passed away at 90 something. Her daughter looks exactly like her. So,
But you wouldn't know what year this is. The photographs, you wouldn't know what year.
no, I don't, because there's nothing on the photos. But that my aunt, I mean, she just died at 92. So that's her. That would have been a long time ago. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. I'm putting my cursor on it, but I forgot I'm not screen sharing, so nobody can see what I'm pointing at. I'm so used to I live on Zoom. I'm so used to screen sharing and doing stuff. I even write on PDFs on Zoom. And I didn't include a lot of professional stuff, but I did include my BATNA slide
I know. Yes, we get to that. No, but in terms of stories about the Romanian family and the great grandmother and everything, have some stories come down?
I have absolutely nothing about the great grandma. My father's family was not very close. So like I said, my cousin who I think in my first wedding, she sent me a gift, which was very nice, but she moved out to Arizona. I never saw her. Her mother, I saw her mother and her older sister at my father's memorial service. That was about it. I went and visited her once when I was living in Paris in the city. And then she just wasn't very family oriented, which is why her daughter's just reconnected now. So I have much closer relationship with my mother's family, although they're spread all over the world. But the Romanian family has a good story. You have a map in there that I can explain it with if you'd like. No, that's that one. Yeah. So my father, all our lives told us that he was from Transylvania because that's where Dracula was born, because of course that's much more interesting than being from anywhere else in Romania. So I just found this map today. So one day, actually, so I have an Australian friend whom I've had for years, and I've been to Australia before, and I never thought I would live here. And I met her in Paris, and she'd moved back to Australia, and she called me. She said, "Oh, I have an American friend who's living in Bucharest. I was living in Paris." She said, "You want to come visit with me?" And I had some free time, and I said, "Sure." So I called my father, and I said, "Okay, so where in Transylvania are we from?" And he said, "Oh, it's a place called Dorohoi." I said, "Okay," because he never thought anyone would go to Romania and figure this out. So I start looking on the map, and I find out that, Dracula's kind of down in the middle, not really completely Western, but more to the West. And where we're from is all the way up on the, it's right near Moldova in Russia. So I actually went there because we were going to the painted churches, which are up in the north, and I can't remember where they are, but I keep pointing at this map. I'm so used to being in control on Zoom.
Yes, that's why you don't want your people to be in control.
They're kind of somewhere in the middle there where you see that Mare, somewhere along there. So I said to my friend Lucy, I said, "Okay, well, if we're going up there, we're going to go find this Dorohoi place." And so you can see next to that map is a picture of me at Dorohoi, which is not in Transylvania, of course. No, right there.
Yeah.
See there? Yeah, there. Oops. Yeah, there we go. So I found it, but not at all where it was supposed to be, and there was no Dracula there whatsoever.
But what does that mean? That Bine Ati Venet? What is that?
Bine ati venit. I think it just means welcome, because a venit is to come, and a bine is good. So it's probably good welcome to. I speak very little Romanian, as in I learned about 10 or 15 words when I was there, because it is a Romance language. But I was there for about a week, and it was really funny too. Again, I know you want to go in chronological order, but that doesn't really work with me.
That's okay. That's okay.
So when Lucy said, "Oh, we're going to go there," and Jill said, her friend who was there, who they worked with UN groups, it's really hard there. They call each other up and say, "Oh, there's cheese at the store," and everyone runs to buy the cheese. So Lucy comes with this suitcase full of jeans, cigarettes, and everything under the sun. And we ended up going right after Ceausescu was toppled, and not right after, but enough after that nobody really needed any of the stuff that she brought with her. We checked cans of tuna fish and all this stuff, and it was just too much too late, not too little too late. So we just left it with her friend there, and traveled around a bit, and went down to also another
Did
So I
you
got,
find your family house or something? Were you
no,
able
no,
to?
not a house because they'd been so my grandparents had gone to the States. No, but we found, I mean, it's a little tiny town, it's a little nothing town. So I'm not sure. Actually, somebody's doing the oh no, they're doing the other family tree. Um
Because I'm sure
no,
they.
no, somebody's doing that family, somebody's doing that family tree now. This is my father's family. I'm sorry, I'm getting confused. So I might find out where they were from originally because they had kind of German sounding names, Germanic sounding names. So I don't know where they were from originally, but I might find out soon because apparently my cousin's stepdaughter from is doing a genealogy. I just found this out all last week. Again, reconnecting with this other cousin. So I might find out where they were from originally one day.
But you know
But they
you.
look like gypsies. They do look like gypsies. So
Yeah. Or maybe that's the way people dress there. Maybe that's the time.
no, no, no. I'm talking about the face. If you look at,
Yeah, yeah.
if you look at my grandfather or even like my father, he's not even tan there. You can see I mean, this guy, my paternal grandfather looks a lot more like a gypsy down in the corner. Yeah, there than anyone else. I mean, they're all dark skinned. My father was fairly dark skinned. I mean, for white people,
But interesting thing is that I also have a show called In Conversation with the Beautiful Mind, and the person from last time was from Romania. I mean, I'm just saying, it's just a connection. But as such, I mean, as such stories didn't come down to you as to what there was like, what life was like, because your grandmother must have told you stories.
Yeah, no, we
Oh,
didn't
you were too
see her
young. You were
that
too
much.
young. Yeah, you were too young at that time.
Yeah, I mean, she died when I was 12, and we used to play cards with her. I remember playing rummy with her, things like that. But no, she didn't really. I think they had a bit of an estranged family relationship too. My father wasn't very close to, well, his father passed away. I think when he was fairly young. I don't remember what age, but I think his father was 50 or something when he died, or around that. So that would have been when my father was fairly young, I guess. And my grandmother also, when she was in the home, she was a little bit senile. So for a couple of years, so I only really knew her a bit more when I was younger. So there weren't as many stories there.
But the maternal grandparents you remember, those you'll remember.
I not so much because my maternal grandmother passed away when my mother was pregnant with me. So it's kind of a bad joke. I shouldn't say this on YouTube, but I went to the funeral basically in my mother's stomach. But my paternal grandfather, yes, I met him and his second wife. But there are photos of them in there somewhere.
But where
I
did they live?
didn't disappoint you completely, Vikram.
Yeah, but where did they live? I mean, these people, your maternal grandparents and all, where were they?
Well, where were they? Okay,
Where
so
they?
the paternal ones were in New York, and the maternal ones were in Scotland.
Okay.
So my mother was Scottish.
But you didn't. I mean, you didn't really. You had holidays there with them.
No, my maternal grandfather came to New York, so I saw him there. But by the time I went to Scotland, he was no longer alive. I think he was 83 when he came to New York, and he found nothing better to do than take one of my pogo sticks out of the garage and start jumping up and down on the driveway, to the great
Interesting.
dismay of my mother. I did have pogo sticks.
That's
I think I
interesting.
had a unicycle too. I must have been out of my mind. I would die if I had to get on one of those things today.
That should have been interesting. But pogo stick is something obviously we haven't seen. We didn't go through that period. So
I think I was about 10 or something. I don't know.
this is the Scottish
You asked me
family.
what I did in the suburbs. I had a pogo stick. So that's the jitterbug, because I heard, and I can't remember whose it was. I was listening to one of the recordings. They were talking about the jitterbug. So that's my Aunt Sadie, who's my mother's sister on the right-hand side. That's not her husband, but she was, they call her Sandra there, I think it's written, but she was a jitterbug champion in the UK. So so my aunt and uncle dance. So my mother's side of the family are a family of dancers, really.
Nice.
So because I heard somebody talking about jitterbug. So
That's an
so my
interesting
mother
photograph.
was,
That's an interesting photograph. This one on top.
which one? The
one on
top one
top.
or the bottom? Top.
The one
So my mother was the youngest of 10 children. So which makes things complicated. So I have cousins who are, kind of way older than me. So she was the youngest, and when she was born, her eldest brother was 20, and embarrassed as anything that his mother could go and have a kid, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
at that
But this
age.
was normal. I think
So,
that generation, I think it was normal. I think here also the same
yeah,
thing happened. Same thing happened here.
yeah. Well, so that's all the sisters though. So, and so my mother was the youngest, and I think they're actually in order of age there. And then they dispersed all over the world. So the first three ended up in the US. No, the first three and the other one in pink in the US. The one on the end in black stayed in Scotland, and the one in blue went to Canada. And then there's some guys in there, some of the brothers in there somewhere in other photos. So on the photo on the left, no,
No, this one.
that's another jitterbug one. The left, no, my left. Sorry, you're right. Yeah, those are two of her brothers, and they all looked alike. So I'm not sure which ones they were. But there was one out of the 10, one of them died when he was 14. He got hit in the back by a swing apparently, and was, paralyzed, and didn't last very long. So then there were 9 of them left. So there were 6 sisters and then 3 brothers left. And one of them actually ended up in Australia, and I found through a total fluke. I'd met when he'd come to New York. I was supposed to be in Boston for the summer, and my mother I was supposed to be on the beach, and she made me stay in New York to meet my uncle, which I did. And
But
then,
this was an uncle who was how much? I mean, was he much older or was he
well,
not so
yeah,
much?
well, they all were. My mother was the youngest of, I think there were 2 of I think it was Marcus. I think there were 2 men, then Mona, then they were kind of interspersed, but the guys were in the older, I guess,
Mhm.
um,
The firstborns there. Yeah.
of the siblings, other than 1 or 2 of the sisters, and then the 3 or 4 youngest were the women, other than the one who died. So yeah, he would have been considerably old. So his son passed away recently, and he was my uncle, and he died like 2 or 3 years ago, and he was like 73 or 74 or something like that. So I'm friendly, with his son, who's the guy in the kilt in some of these photos, who's just like, more or less my age. So there was this huge, age difference.
Mm. But who are
So what
these
are these?
guys? Who are these guys?
Okay, so that's that's my uncle Phil, is the one who's the second, the one with the beret.
Mhm.
Because I don't know if you're looking left or right.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he's the Jitterbug champion's husband, and they used to dance together also. So the guy in the photo there, the Billy guy, is not him, but that was him in, I think, World War II. He's still alive. He's one of the only ones still alive out of all the brothers and sisters and spouses. He's in Florida now, and he's like 95, 96. I'm not sure.
But fit. I
Or
mean, fit
90.
enough.
I don't know. Yeah, but it's really interesting because my husband's Italian, and he was in Italy, and he always loves to, tell his war stories about being in Italy, and he still has all these, fond memories of Italy at the time. So I guess, there's a silver lining to COVID, and I guess there's a bit of a silver lining to war too. Is to
Yeah.
discover new countries, or but there's someone I don't have a photo of, which is unfortunate. I found one, but it it was really blurred, which is my so I was never really close on my father's side. That's my mother's sister's husband. I was never close on my father's side really with my aunt and uncle. But his cousin is someone that I was and I still keep in touch with. And but I don't have a photo of her. There was one, but there were all these other people in it. And sometimes it's a bit weird to share photos with other people in it too, without, like more modern ones. So it was at one of her birthday. I think it was at her 90th birthday party. She just turned 99, and a 99 or 100. I don't know. We did this montage thing from all over the world because it's kind of hard when you're that old and, people can't visit.
But maybe Zoom is a good thing. Maybe you just might connect to people and have these Zoom calls or something. I don't know what it is
Yeah.
like because obviously you haven't stayed in touch with a lot of people. What do you really? How do you relate to things? Maybe some old stories and everything. They'll tell you
But
stories.
it's not even that. I moved to Europe when I was 18, so I didn't stay as much in touch with, family people as not. But the on the bottom, that's my cousin and from Canada, and I put that in because I thought it was a cool photo, especially because he got married as a Mountie, but he used to as a Mountie, we used to say he was in drugs, and then he went into counterfeiting because drugs was too dangerous, but which meant that he was actually working with drug dealers. So unlike in that photo, he would come to New York either on his motorcycle or in a Jeep with, long hair, a fur coat, because it's cold in the city in the winter, and an earring, as a Mountie, but because he was actually,
Undercover. He
that
was
was his
undercover.
area. Yeah. And one day he came and it's funny, we just got a Jeep, and I've had one in the past, and he drove the whole way from Toronto or wherever he was living at the time, and I said, oh, can I take the Jeep? And he said, sure, the keys are there, half sleeping. So I take the keys, and would have been about 17 at the time, I don't know, 16, and I take the keys, and because I wanted to go buy shoes, not very good at the Mediator story, more of my girl story, but and I get to the place and I can't turn the Jeep off, and I didn't realize that, because of course I didn't ask him how it worked, because he was sleeping, and if he'd been awake he probably would never have let me take it. So apparently there was a button underneath behind the steering wheel, and if you didn't press that button you couldn't get the key out of the ignition, and that was before we had cell phones, so I didn't know what to do because I'm stuck in the parking lot. And then it started snowing, and I didn't know how to put the four-wheel drive in, because it was really like a Jeep Wrangler. It wasn't just like a nowadays, like when it wasn't a fancy Jeep. It was like a Wrangler, like it
Not even a
basic.
Wrangler. Yeah, basic. Yeah, the old ones that you had.
Yeah. Well, they still have those basic ones. I've been four-wheel driving in mud with not ours, but with one recently where we got stuck in the mud. I can show you a picture of that if you like. That's a fun one.
Because I saw this amphibian one also, that you could actually take it through water.
Mm.
It's
Well, you
interesting.
can. They've got snorkels here in Australia. A lot of the cars have the. Well, this one, you could, but the guys, what they did is they measured the water to see, and because we went past it, and they said, "Oh, we're not going to go," and they went back. Yeah, let's try. So we came back around, but they didn't measure just that first, couple of meters, which kind of came up to the windows of the car. So we all had to kind of get out with the water coming up. That was I had a lot of work, and my husband dragged me on this is on December 23rd. I'm like literally the last week of work before the holidays. And I ended up like, I don't know, foot deep in mud.
Good adventure. Good adventure.
Oh, I have lots of adventures. They're just not when I was that age.
Yeah, that we're gonna get to. That's kind of like that's gonna be
I didn't put a lot of those photos in, but
we just hear the stories. The stories will be interesting. So now I have to see the photographs and see which ones are and what order. I think that's what we have to do. But otherwise, now
they're not in. I didn't know you wanted chronological order. I just
oh, that's okay. We'll find them. But what is happening at this point of time, basically 16, 17, that obviously that's a period you remember. I mean, the friends from that period.
Oh, yeah. No, even 12 to a certain extent. What do I have? There are other, there's one in there from when I was 7, which is interesting. It's kind of it's funny kind of when you think of the things you do when you're younger and how it's a bit of a harbinger for the rest of your life.
But I like this one with all the various.
Oh God, those are all my school photos. I hesitated, but he actually put in all the grades. Look at that. Oh, we're missing first grade. I don't know what happened in first grade. Yeah, those were the clothes my mother was buying me. They got a bit better in 4th grade, but when I was in mod, I had these. It's really funny, the sandals that I had with that pink polka dot dress. Oh God, that hair. God knows how she put me in that hairstyle. No, not that one. That was okay. That was when I rebelled. But if you look at the one with those curls, the one to the other side, yeah, with those green flowers and curls, like, oh man, what did she do to me?
But like I said, with these photographs, at least you get to know fashion of the period.
Yeah. Well, the one with the pink dress with the white polka dots, I actually had these Greek sandals that came up to my knee, and they were like gladiator sandals, and they were back in style a year or 2 ago. I didn't keep them from that age, but it's funny how things come back in
exactly.
style.
Yeah. That's the interesting part.
Yeah, though the 4th grade was the one where after that I ended up not being as interested in
But that's not bad.
school. But there's one
no, but I'm just
there's
thinking
one called
hair gets chopped. Your hair gets chopped off in the 3rd grade.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't remember what happened there. I remember it got chopped off when I was around 18 or so again, but I chopped it off. So
okay.
I don't know how my hair got chopped off. I probably asked for. I don't know. I really don't remember. I certainly don't remember that horrible smock dress either. So, but there's one called a little older, and not a particularly good name. And there's an interesting photo in there, I think.
Let me see now. Was there actually two of them, 7 different albums. No.
Oh, I threw in the wedding pics at the end because I'd forgotten them. It's called Little Older. It's in the first one.
Yeah. Little older. Yeah. Got it. Got it.
Okay, so actually that was my 7th birthday where I got an aquarium, and that was my room when my mother had put French provincial furniture in it, and I didn't put a photo in, but I later painted it purple and yellow and put up posters on all the walls and the ceiling.
But what posters?
and
That'd be
hanging stuff.
interesting. What posters were those?
I had one of Alice Cooper. I had a picture of Mark Spitz. I had a picture of a Rolls Royce saying my tastes are simple. I like the best. That was on my ceiling. I had a big blown up pill, like from a contraceptive pill. I don't know why I had that there, because it was when I was about 12. It's like, you put these things in because you think they're funny, but you don't really know the meaning until later on. I had some pictures of friends up there. I don't know. I have to go find them. But I painted the walls pink and yellow and purple. And then later I have a close friend of the family who's in one of those photos who was a designer also. And then he turned my room into black, like kind of naga hide with silver stuff. It was a bit crazy. But anyway, the thing that was interesting here that's really kind of a premonition is that was my 7th birthday when I got the aquarium. No, the other one on the bottom. And instead of having a party, I was able to take 3 friends out to dinner, and we were eating frog's legs.
Wow.
Frog's legs. My husband's
Yep.
Italian. He forgot the S. Frog's legs. Oh, whatever.
Okay,
Doesn't
okay.
matter.
Yeah.
But so when I was 7, I was eating frog's legs. I don't know how or why. And I don't even know how. There was a restaurant out in the suburbs where we lived. It was in Huntington where they served that. But I think even from that age, I was always open. I remember going at a similar age somewhere and eating eel, which most Americans would have like not wanted to eat eel. So so I was always very open to different things, different cultures, different languages, different food.
Because I tried frog legs many years back, but it didn't really taste like anything. It
Tastes
wasn't
like
much.
chicken. They taste a little bit like chicken. Well, it's like a lot of things. It's the sauce. So like escargot or snails, like the snail itself isn't any big deal. It's the sauce that it's in that really makes it. Because if you were to eat it without the sauce, it would be nothing. Frogs like taste a bit.
But do you remember these friends? I mean, are there anyone that you would?
Yeah, I remember all of them. The one on the closest, the one across from me's name is Frances something or other. I vaguely remember her. I remember the tall blonde Ruth, but the one next to me, her name was Donna also. And I remembered her because she was kind of my best friend for a while. And my mother didn't like her. And it was always the thing about, bad influence. And, because she would wear really tight jeans and her mother would, take them in. So they were really tight. And I would get mine taken in so they were really tight. And my mother thought I looked like a floozy. So I definitely remember her. I lost track of her because I graduated high school when I was 16. Well, I don't even think I was friends with her anymore in high school because I went to a different area because you're not always in the same place. And then I graduated when I was 16, and I went away to college or university in Boston for a while, and then came back and finished in New York. So I as I said, nothing I did I think was on the beaten track.
But what do girls that age do together? What is the kind of activities?
7 years old? I don't know. I don't remember. I remember when we were 12 and we were going to concerts. I mean, I went to a Grateful Dead concert when I was 12. I was doing things like that when I was a bit older. When we were still I was still friends with her. But
Grateful Dead at 12, Grateful Dead is interesting.
Yeah, it was. Not really my taste anymore. I don't mind listening to some of it. No, I listen. And I was a brownie, which is kind of the level below the Girl Scout for a while. So and then that's a picture that just came up. Somebody sent it to me on Facebook of me and my sister.
But Andrew was also in the Scouts. he was
really?
Yeah, he had some photographs. They had some photographs from there also.
Yeah, I don't think I stayed very long. I think I became a Girl Scout and then I left. That was, I don't know how old I was there. I must have been, I don't know, 8, 9, something like that. Like I said, I just pulled all these photos out of the boxes. Literally, we brought the boxes up from the garage where they've been sitting for over 10 years and pulled them all out today because I thought, I better get Vikram some photos. And I've been so busy, with work too, that I just didn't have time to do it beforehand. I kind of scrolled through like the thousands and thousands of photos I have in my on my computer, which makes me realize how they all have to be organized better too.
Yeah, that's
And I
interesting.
lost,
And you've got your
yeah.
husband doing this categorization and putting the proper titles to it. It'll be interesting now. You've got
Yeah, well, it was really interesting. He was supposed to go out for the day to get something done with the Jeep with friends and kind of forgot to tell me. And I'm like, no, you can't do this. You have to stay here. Oh, the guy's waiting. I'm like, no. I need your help. Because he took all the photos. Because I had to go through all the photos because he didn't know what they were. And then he took them all. Oh, God, that's another shorthead. That's me graduating high school or secondary school.
It looks so different. I mean,
Yeah, I know. I noticed that too. I found that photo today also.
interesting. But high school graduation happens proper graduation. It is.
Well, it did those days. Yeah, except for it was really hot because it was in June, and I don't know, we had a heat wave. So I think I was wearing a bathing suit underneath my gown, which I didn't take off during the graduation, obviously.
That would have
But it
been
was
quite a
nice.
sight.
Afterwards, I had a proper, I have photos somewhere of, but looking proper when we went out after the graduation, but to stand there because it was outdoors. It was outdoors in like the football field or something,
But beyond this
just-
period, I'm sure you remember. I mean, if things beyond this, obviously now.
Of course. Well, when just right now when we were talking about the football field where the track field where I graduated, I remember many years later. So I'm very good at with hand-eye contact sports. So I'm much better with well, now I play ping pong more than squash because I hurt my back with squash, and my sister was better with skiing, rollerblading, and I rollerbladed for a while. I've stopped, and my father had ice skated when he was younger, much younger, like 20s. So he wanted to rollerblade. So we outfitted him up with like a helmet and elbow guards and wrist guards and all that, and went off to the track where it's track and field where people run, and you could just skate around there as opposed to going out with cars and everything. And my first husband was German, and I always say he was German. I'm not sure. I've lost contact, but he might still be German. And his name was Helmut, and he was like amazing. He was an amazing skier, and he just like got on the rollerblades once in Florida and started going backwards over the grass and everything. Right. So we were talking about him. This woman, people talk to each other, and after like this whole conversation about how Helmut was, such a good, skater and this and that, she turns around. She said, "Oh, I make my child wear a helmet too." And my father and I just looked at each other and said, "Oh my God." She was just, I guess, typical, suburban, American who had no clue that somebody's name could actually be, something so different, yeah.
But what is that? But I mean, in terms of school, you have to tell us what is happening in school. What is life like in school at that time?
I was a bit of a mischievous rebel. So when I didn't get skipped a grade, I just started hanging out, and I was always I know sometimes I don't know if it's good to be smart. So my sister had to work a lot harder than I did to get good grades, and I didn't have to work, and I don't know that that's such a good thing, because you don't have the same retention, and then if it just comes too easy, you just don't do the work as much, because I don't think I ever failed a course in my life. I had one course afterwards in college or university that I didn't go to, that I was just going to drop, and the teacher wouldn't fail me because the couple of times I showed up, I was able to say something intelligent, but literally without ever, I didn't do any of the work, and that's not always a good thing, but that's kind of the way it was. So
But you have to tell us why it's not a good thing.
I'm sorry, what?
You have to tell us why it's not a good thing.
Well, because you don't work as hard, and you don't do as much. If you can just kind of like rock up and cram for an exam and get an A or a B on it or whatever, and you don't have to study. I'm not saying I didn't study at all. Obviously, I don't get to where I am professionally from not doing anything. But when I was younger, I didn't really have to. And like, as I said, they had wanted to put me a year ahead because they saw that I was really bored. And when my mother said no, by then I just kind of didn't really have to do much. And it depends. I think that it's better to push children and let them, that's just my view. I mean, I don't have children, but I've been a kind of a surrogate parent to my nephew, and I think you have to let them go at their own pace too. You don't want to push them if they're not able to do it. But anyway, so while I said I was going to Grateful Dead concerts when I was 12. I was doing all kinds of fun things. Sometimes I was a little bit of a bully, not my Mediator point there. I had some friends, so we changed schools a couple of times because they built new schools, and we had a French teacher who, it was unfortunate because we were supposed to go to France that year, but he was very he was really pretty pathetic. And honestly, teachers should be able to do something more than just teach the language if they're language teachers, or teach whatever subject it is. And we had other teachers who were really disciplinarians. They would not stand for anything in their class. And believe me, in those classes, I didn't do it either, because I would have, suffered the consequences. But he was just really, he had no idea how to control the class. So it was a bit of a free for all, unfortunately. There were a couple of just incidents where we would go and get snow from outside and throw snowballs in the class, and that was the year in ninth grade where we were supposed to go to France, and he canceled the trip because he just knew that it would have been absolutely crazy letting us loose in Paris, and mainly because he just didn't really know how to teach or control the class. But there was a different incident. I probably shouldn't say this on YouTube, but
You must.
we had, so this would have been a couple of years before. That was in ninth grade. So I would have been about 14, I guess. So I was 12. 12 or 13. Yeah. I went to that was a different school. They broke us up afterwards. So after elementary school, I used to go to this school where they didn't have a dress code. And at the time, one of my friends and I, and we stayed friends, our parents were friends for a long time, used to wear short shirts, like midriff shirts, which you see now. And we'd always get called down to the principal's office, and then they call our parents down, but they had no dress code. So just that they had no dress code, but they would say, oh, it's inappropriate. And it was just whatever they decided that day was appropriate or inappropriate. And my father being a lawyer and her parents being kind of hippies, and me already being a kind of, not really a rebel, but, there's no dress code. How am I supposed to comply with it? So I had a homeroom teacher, which was the first period that you went, and they called them periods when we had our different classes there. And when I would go in with a short shirt, he'd just be he said, why are you doing this to me, Don? He was such a nice guy. He said, I'm going to have to send you down to the principal. Don't make me do this. If I don't, it's my job on the line. So I don't know. One day he said to me, well, if you were to wear a jewel in your navel and your belly button, the way in the Middle East they do that, I guess that would be a different thing. But this, I have no choice. And the poor man didn't know who he was dealing with.
Next day,
because of course I came in with, and he just looked mortified, because now he's got to go back on his word. Because if he doesn't send me down, he's gonna one who's gonna be reprimanded. He was just like, how could you do this to me? People don't think sometimes before they say things. I mean, it's not as bad as the don't put beans in your ears, but yeah. So that happened, and we had another teacher like that in that same junior high school. I was in honors science, and the teacher was, I think, sleeping with one of my girlfriends, but that's another story.
That's an interesting story. I think we need some entertainment here also.
But he taught it at really a university level, and I enjoyed science, but not for that amount of work. So I switched and I went into the normal class, and it was just a zoo. And we had this poor teacher who, again, another teacher who had no idea how to control the class. And, you're in biology and you're dissecting stuff. And, he'd say something, he'd have his jacket off and he'd say, but don't put worms in my pockets. So of course, the first thing that happened was everyone put worms in the man's, and he would stand there in front of the class and pull them out and not know what to do. That was fun. The dissecting part was fun, and some of the biology stuff was fun. But
this was dissecting frogs. Dissecting frogs.
Yeah, I wasn't eating those frogs. I was dissecting them.
Well, that's interesting.
And cutting up worms, which I had no problem with. I had done it once or twice. I can't fish to save my life. I catch nothing, but I have cut up worms to try to fish. On the couple of occasions I attempted it unsuccessfully.
But what about sports? I mean, there's sports happening, some in school in terms of competitive sports. I mean, or
No, I never really did. No, I never. I mean, I did the kind of things that you have to do in school. I hated the balance beam because I liked the trampoline for some
Mhm.
reason. But then afterwards, when I went to uh, when I went to first, I went to university. I keep calling it college. That's what it's called there in Boston. I continued with, well, not so much swimming, but dive courses to
Mhm.
become a certified diver. And then afterwards, when I went back to New York, I did a life saving course because in order to become a swimming instructor at that time, you had to do the life saving course first. And I played tennis also with a friend, and that's how I broke my ankle because she was so bad that every time the ball would come my way, it would be in either the right hand court or the left hand court, never the court I was in. So I ended up twisting my ankle running after it. I played racquetball, which later I played squash because in France they didn't really have any racquetball. They had squash mainly. So I mean, I did whatever sports, I used to play
Of course.
handball, the kinds of stuff kids play, but I was never, into sports competitively or anything. And I went skiing once when I was 12, I think, up to a ski place not too far, a couple of hours up north. And we didn't get a lesson. So I just kind of went down the baby hill and ended up like falling on top of another skier or something, and decided I'd never ski again as long as I live. And then when I was 18, my friends in Boston took me skiing, and they were avid skiers, stand on one foot, twirl around kind of stuff, and decided they'd leave me at the top of the hill. So I came down once on ski patrol, once on my ski, sitting down on my butt. I learned to traverse a bit and then promised I'd never ski again as long as I live. And then my first husband, actually both husbands were really avid skiers. And the first one was ski patrol and all that. So I finally learned how to ski in Austria many years later. And I was
Must
lucky
be good
because it was
fun. Yeah.
April and the weather was really nice. So I could sit out at lunch in my bathing suit in the sun. And that like really encouraged me to want to ski more than the cold.
Now, basically, now you're into college. So now college must be interesting. But we don't have any
Um,
photographs. You don't have any photographs of that period, do we? We don't.
no, I don't. No, I don't. I don't.
But
What do I have?
where is
Oh,
college?
but I have an article from high school, but it's not very interesting. So in high school, which is secondary school, the interesting thing is that they had this program, which was called Total Immersion. And that's that thing called learning French in high school. I put it into a Word document because the New York Times article wasn't very good. And there they have Arabic, which I didn't even know that. I don't know if they had it then or before. They might have. But it was, you had 3 French courses a day. And I think they did it in Spanish, but the French was really the strongest at that time. So you would have your normal French course with French language. And then you had your what we called social studies or history, to the
Yep.
extent that Americans learn history or geography in French too, which was very bad because later on I really got slammed for not knowing how to say the Crimean War in English because I knew La Guerre de Crimée because I'd never studied it in English. But and then we had mini courses which were like cooking or journalism or things of the sort. So at that point in time at like 14 years old or 14, 15, I was in 3 French courses a day with other students, and it really gave you the opportunity to learn the language. And that's how I ended up learning French, and I majored in French and political science in college or university, and then went to France afterwards.
So there was some connection right from there. You just had something for France, or just
For languages, and I guess French in particular, I don't know, I had friends who took other languages. I don't know, I had a preference for French. I learned other languages afterwards, but I was lucky too, because even though years later going back, I saw that some of the teachers I'd had, even if they were French, had gotten almost like American accents from living there from so long. And then the first one I had was not French, but she was just really good and engaging because the friends who studied Spanish, learned literature but never learned how to speak.
exactly. That's what I was just going to
German,
say.
the same thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So there's so I was lucky in that I had good teachers, and then this program. So I was I was speaking French when I went to off to college. The problem was when I tried to learn other languages, going into the beginner class was just dreadful, because it would take them 3 weeks to learn how to say I, you, whatever, and having being so immersed in French. When I took Spanish, I ended up having to go into, I tried in high school and I gave up on that. I did Italian for a semester in high school, but when I went to college, I kind of put myself into, I don't know, third semester Spanish without having learned any of the basics. So I had to catch up on that, but it was better than, it was just too hard to go into basic levels after.
But I think that's a good thing at that age because you can pick up languages, I'm sure, much faster at that age. I think that's a good thing to do in school.
Yeah, I think it's better, but there's some, I remember this family I knew in France. God, I think I used to teach English once. I was probably when I first got there. God, the memories come back. And he was a Pied Noir Jew, and she was from former Yugoslavia. I can't remember if she's Serbian or Croatian. And they had 4 or 5 kids, and between them, they spoke about 4 or 5 languages. And a couple of the kids spoke all the languages, and then 1 or 2 of the kids nothing but French. They just, so part of it is age. Obviously, if you're a baby and you're only spoken to in one language, you'll really have not much of a choice if you don't learn that language because you can't communicate. But learning multiple languages sometimes, even when kids are spoken to or exposed to it very young, it sometimes it's more of a personality. It's like some people are really good at math, or maths, as they say here. Some people are better at languages. I think that part of it is, you're right, when you're young, the environment, the type of teaching you get, but part of it is also a predisposition to certain things.
Sure. Yeah. But I think just the fact, I think, as they say, when you age, I think knowing those languages is good for the brain. I mean, if you can actually speak those languages, I'm sure it's good for you. But
Well,
you
it
get
is,
to
as long
speak. Do
as
you
you
get to
have
speak it now? Do you get to speak French now? It's all gone.
Yeah, not as much as in New York, because in New York, the office I had was, I just rented an office in an office suite which was run by accountants, and I had another a friend who was a lawyer whom I brought in there, and then a guy who was a psychologist or psychiatrist, actually, Chris. But the guy across from me, it ended up was French, so we used to speak French every day. I do speak it sometimes because I still have dealings with France and French friends. And I'm a member of Arbitral Women, which is an association of women in arbitration, but there are a number of them who are in France. So, and I'm a member of French Australian Chamber of Commerce, and so I speak it. My husband is Italian, but he was actually born in France and does speak some French. So we've been watching French TV on Netflix recently, and so he might go take a course to try to brush it up. He's lived there on and off for a year, here and there, but not enough to be as fluent as he'd like.
But you're okay in Italian. Can you speak to him in Italian?
Well, sometimes he speaks to me more in Italian sometimes. So my languages are English, French, Spanish, Italian. So Italian's my 4th language. So it's getting a lot better, obviously, because now I've been to Italy with him a number of times. His family here, his 3 sisters are here. And so they speak Italian. So I was always exposed to Italian, but I never learned it properly. I took a semester and that was it. So when I worked in my past profession, which we haven't gotten to yet, I didn't use Italian in interpreting, but I was working in Brussels, and there were just so many Italian, people who worked there all over the place. So I was always exposed to it, and I used to go to Italy, back then too, because I loved Italy.
But tell me, is a language like cycling? So you can pick it up. I mean, you can just start off after years if you have to. Does it come naturally, or is it something
I
that
think
you still?
it's like cycling if you've really been off the bicycle for a long time, maybe. No, it depends on what level you've had. I mean, I feel sometimes like my French is getting rusty, but I remember going back to the States and meeting with my phonetics professor from college, from university, who was French and taught phonetics. And I thought, oh my God, she's got an American accent almost. So, I think that you can lose certain parts of it. When I first went to France, I remember I came back after 9 months. I was in the car with my parents coming home from the airport, and I almost couldn't speak English because I'd just been speaking French for 9 months straight without speaking anything else. So I think you can pick it up, but it depends on how you do it. If you end up in the country, obviously that's the best way. If you start, going to movies or watching things, on TV or listening to radio. One of my professors in my conference interpreting course used to say the best way is to go to church. You go to a church and you sit all the way in the back. And if you can understand what they're saying in a foreign language, then you know that you're, the same with the radio, listening to how quickly people speak on the radio and TV. So you can, you can always pick it up again. And the more languages you know, the easier it is to learn too, I think. I don't know if anyone else here
No,
speaks
but I
the
think the
language.
interesting thing is actually to be able to debate in that language. That I think is then you've really got the language.
Yeah, well, it's not only that. The problem is that sometimes for debating, French is so much better than English, and I get sometimes even when I'm drafting, legal documents in English, I want to. They're just French phrases and things that are just so much better, and I can't put them in obviously, and I can't translate them because it sounds ridiculous. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's certain things that certain languages are better for.
Yep. Okay. So now, but now we've finished high school, and now we're getting into
Oh, good.
college. Are we into
Oh,
college
I'm
now?
glad.
But we don't have anything from that period, so there's no photographs. So we're out of photography. If you have
No,
some,
I didn't. I don't. Well, not that I was able to put together. What do I have here? I'm just trying to see. No, I have nothing from college. I don't know why. I should somewhere. Yeah, see, the problem is I moved too, so I think I might have like some more boxes of photographs at my sister's place in Florida. In a box somewhere in her garage, because I have nothing from that period. And then the worst part is when I moved back to New York from France, I had all my photographs on my computer, and I had some rocket scientists. That's when I started. I actually bought a computer and started doing the hard drive stuff myself. He did a backup for me, and I didn't realize that he did a backup by putting a C and a D on my same hard drive. So when the hard drive blew, I lost everything. So forget about college. I have no photos from like 10 years in New York, really.
but okay, but the
Afterwards.
memories are there, so you can tell us
Yeah, yeah.
what is it like? I mean, moving from high school to college,
I
drastic
was
change.
16, so I don't think it's normal. Like I said, I didn't do anything normal so in my life. So I was just so happy to get away. I mean, I always wanted to go away. Except for, it was interesting. I always wanted to go to sleepaway camp when I was younger. And it was the same thing. My mother was always, oh no, send it away for the whole summer. So I never got to go away to camp because I just wanted to go. I just wanted to go away to leave, to travel. And when I can't remember if it was 12 or 14, she finally decided to send my sister to camp. So I got to go on this teen tour, which I originally didn't want to go on. It wasn't that I was spoiled. It was almost like that ship had sailed. By that time, I was hanging out with my friends, and I didn't want to be, forced to go somewhere. And they come to the house, and they're showing us this thing about going to California, Hawaii, Mexico, and any kid would have been thrilled to do that. And I was like, I don't want to go. But anyway, I went, and it was really good. I think I was 12, and I remember in LA, some of the girls were getting tattoos. And I was going to get a tattoo also. But then I thought, because I was always fairly reasonable, even when I was being a rebel. I thought if I get a tattoo, this is way before like now with everyone has tattoos, but if I don't want anyone to see it, I'd have to get it somewhere where no one can see it. And then I thought, well, if I'm going to get it where somewhere where no one can see it, then what's the point of spending money on getting it? So I didn't do the tattoo, but
Good. But that's an issue I've always had with that, because at that point of time that might have significance, whatever you get tattooed. But what about 5, 7, 8, 10 years back? It has nothing, and you're stuck with it.
I mean, now I saw something really interesting on Facebook recently. And I thought about that for a friend. People who have really bad scars, if you have really bad scarred skin from an accident or a burn or something, there's some tattoos that I saw them doing, which are almost kind of like plastics, like making something really ugly looking nice. And since so many other people have them now, but back then I thought, all right, what am I going to do? Get it between my toes or something? Yeah. So that was when I was about 12. Now I'm going back. I'm not in college anymore. I've regressed. That was interesting though. So we went all around we went to California and
No, but tell me, but Donna, now this is now a diverse crowd of children, or what is it like? I mean, I just want to understand what was it
not a lot of diversity back then? No. Well, no, I had diversity, but I was like, so I had friends who were, diverse because I just always did that. I had groups of friends. Okay, they might have been like Italian or Irish, but black too. And like, when they moved, I never really saw, I mean, I was always interested in culture. And even now, sometimes I have to be careful because whenever I meet people, I always say, oh, where are you from? And some people take offense and they'll say, oh, I'm Australian or whatever. I'm like, no, I want to know background because I'm interested, because I like it, because I I try to pick up on the accent, or I love to study physiognomy. And I've been in places where I'll say to someone, "Oh, I know where you're from," and they're like, "No." I was in Bed Bath and Beyond in New York, and the guy was a Berber from Algeria, and I recognized it by the color of his eyes, and and he was like, "Oh my," or someone who's from Ethiopia or Somalia. Sometimes I'll be in a restaurant with friends, and I'll say, "Oh, I know," and they'll say, "No, no, you're wrong." So for me, it's always been interesting. I mean, I've always spoken language, travel, love different cultures, but so it wasn't really. No, it wasn't really that. I think my parents weren't very good with that either. Like when I mentioned Jamaica earlier, I thought that the guy in the band was cute. Oh, meanwhile, there was this poor gay guy who befriended me, and my parents thought that I was seeing, and they got very upset. And I was like, "He's gay." It's like it was just a friend. But I never, for me, that was never an issue. It wasn't always, because you don't always have that diversity everywhere you live. But whenever what I.
No, but
It's
it's
not
about
like
it's
not that
about
I sought it out, but it was always people who were always different ended up. I ended up being with them for some reason. I don't know. I don't know why.
no, but now we've gone through school, but where are the boyfriends now? Throughout school, we haven't heard any of them.
Oh, well, the first one was when I was 4. I
That
told you.
that was that was.
Then I had a couple here and there through like junior school and high school. I remember, oh my God, this guy, he was like about this high, and I was 12. That's when my sister, I told her and her friend that I don't remember what I offered to give them if they would stand guard, because it was me and it might have been that girl in the photo. I'm not sure. We were two guys, and we were like kissing in the garage. My parents were away, and they had to like warn us when my parents came home. So, well, the Mexico thing was Hawaii. No, Hawaii, I just got knocked over by a huge wave. We were body surfing in barrel waves and messed up my back, which was really embarrassing, because when we got to San Diego, I think I was 14 at the time, and they took me to the children's ward, and I was just, so embarrassed to have to be in the children's ward. But in Mexico, talk about boyfriends. This poor guy, not a boyfriend, I wasn't there for that long, but I just told him I wanted to drink tequila, tequila with the salt and lime, like everyone did. And he's like, no, 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 you don't. I do. I want the tequila experience. So tequila is really bad. It's like vodka. You can drink a lot of it, and then when you stand up, you're done. But until you stand up, you think you're fine, so you just keep doing it. And the next day, the guy came around, and every time I looked at him, I just thought of the tequila. I couldn't even look at him. It was just like, it just made me so sick. And he was such a nice guy, and I felt so bad. So then I went out with the band leader instead. I mean, for the time I was there. So yeah, I really felt bad about that, but I just I couldn't stomach it. And he didn't want to at all. I was the one who, said, "Oh, you got to do this. I want it typical Mexican," But
This is all happening at 14. This is all
that
happening.
was, yeah, I kind of I did it's really strange. So I was smoking when I was 12, haha, because after my mother tried to pretend it was 18. I quit smoking when I was 18. And for a while, I actually stopped drinking too, because we always drank with my parents. They were really, I mean, I did once or twice the thing where every kid does and goes, glug, 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 one. And then, I didn't like it. And we were allowed to drink with our parents, because even though they weren't the kind of European, like French, Italian, we would go out to lunches and be able to have wine and whatever with them. So it wasn't the taboo thing, that it was such a novelty that I had to go out and, get drunk with friends. I'm not saying we didn't do it, all kids did, but especially once, I think, my parents went away. We had this bar downstairs. I found a photo of it, but I just couldn't get everything together today. And well, one of my friends, we were lying in the pool, and we had these rafts where you could just put a cup in it. And we went to the bar, and we thought we were tricking them. It didn't really work very well. And we just take a little bit out of each bottle every day, thinking they wouldn't notice that when they came home, because, instead of just using one thing, it's just this little bit. But yeah, so boyfriends did trying to think who I had, like the usual, like when you're like 12 years old, or 11 years old.
No, but was there a type? Was there a type? A type of people that you had? Nothing.
No, it was just, no, not really. Ah No, no, or sometimes, you'd have these guys that you would really like, and then they wouldn't like you, or vice versa. You kind of go back and forth. I mean, I remember a couple of the boyfriends I had, and but I
But
actually had older
but
boyfriends
but the only thing,
much.
before that, that message went to me. Kato doesn't know that you sent him that message.
Oh,
Kato,
that's not.
Kato, that was so Kato.
Oh, with my typo as usual. Oh, because I thought I was just replying to him.
To Kato, yeah.
Okay. I'll fix the typo. Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Well, so I guess you didn't see his message to me. So.
yeah, exactly. No, because he sent me a message saying he's leaving in some time. He's a
Okay, yeah,
nice person.
yeah. It's not a good times here on a Saturday night at this time of night to get people on. I think, but
No, I tell you, in general, the people from Australia haven't really been involved because of the time difference. So there aren't people,
no,
but there is Sarah in Perth who had come in, because Perth is obviously only 2.5 hours ahead of us. So it wasn't too
no,
bad. But Sydney, Melbourne, and all haven't had any chance to have people. In general, I
yeah.
mean, in whatever shows that we've had, because too much
Well,
of
I
a
have to
difference.
tell you, yeah, but the people here are also they're very uh, I mean, I don't know, maybe mediators, it depends. This is I don't think this is the kind of thing they do,
Mhm.
but I'm not
No,
sure, but I think
no, but
yeah.
it's actually something which is required, I think. Everyone keeps talking about mediation, mediation. There's so much of that happening. What about the mediator? Because I'm telling you, there is something special there. There is. So I think it's a must. And anyway, people should know the person, because this is so personal, the whole thing, the whole process, that you have to know the person. But you were saying
Mm.
something and I cut you off. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I always had boyfriends that were older than me, so because
Okay.
I don't know, that's that was the way it went. But I don't know. I mean, I have some memories of it, but nothing, of any real import. I went to I had a Colombian boyfriend, a very nice one, who bought me beautiful vase and silk scarf for my birthday when I went to Boston. But remember, I went off to college when I was 16, so
So that means in college, now you're 16 and everyone else is about 18, what, 18, 19?
no, yeah, I guess. Yeah, I was 16, then I turned 17 afterwards. But yeah, I guess so. But yeah, but I was used to always being with older people, so it didn't really matter. But I only stayed up in Boston for a year and a half. Then I had an Algerian boyfriend. I think my parents thought I was gonna like meet some nice, future doctor or lawyer or something, and here I go and meeting all the wrong kinds of people. But anyway, financially it was a really expensive private school too, and so I ended up going back to New York. And then I had to live home for a while, and that was not something I wanted to do. So then I got my own place. I
No,
rented a
there.
room. I had this really preppy friend, So he said, "Oh, there's this house. I'm going to get a room in it." And he's like, really preppy, studious. I knew his girlfriend and all that. And we get in there, and the guy who runs the house is like this total pothead, dope head, And then there's another guy. So I had to get my own little fridge because in the vegetable bin they had mushrooms, and they weren't those kind of mushrooms,
Yes.
and they were playing music all the time, and I was like getting crazy. And the guy was like this little. He was like what you call stoner, and and I was getting ready to leave because I couldn't deal with it. And I, furnished my room and like made it all nice and everything. I love to decorate. It's I always have. And went cheap, went and bought, like a remnant rug, and got I don't know, some I think I bought sheets, and then had them matching ones made into curtains and stuff to all right. But then after a while I couldn't stay there. So he was there one day totally because they were playing music like really late at night. They weren't studying. They were supposed to be students. And I mean, I said before that I had it easy, but having it easy and not studying at all and being up all night, or it's not the same thing. So one day I came home, and he was trying to change the lock, but he was completely like stoned, and he was trying to change the locks. I said, "Excuse me, you can't do that because my stuff is still here." And so he's tried to prevent me, and I never touched him, right? But he started coming towards me. So all I did is put my hands up like this to protect me, and he bumped into and then he called my father. I told him, "Your
Yes.
daughter My father was hysterical laughing, but that reminded me. Oh, in college in Boston, I had two really interesting political science professors. So I majored in French and political science, and did part law towards the end also. And one, Murray Levin, was so funny because he was Jewish, but he was an aristocrat, and he was a communist. So he taught, Marxism, Leninism, but then every Thursday he'd go with his dog for tea at his aunt's place, and it was just like such a contradiction in terms. And then Howard Zinn, who was really amazing because he ended up in jail, and he was a real political activist who put his money where his mouth was my other professor. And he in that course, we actually went into jail, a detention center, and taught. I was teaching English and math to some of the the inmates who are waiting, either trial or sentencing, so that they could get their high school degrees or learn something at least, other than just sitting around doing nothing. So that was pretty cool. Out about that. And then I actually was in a conference in Paris once where he was speaking, so some years later.
No, but when you were with these potheads and all, what is the drug? What were the drugs of choice at that time? What was?
Oh, I think mainly pot, but some of us dabbled, and I never really did anything else. And then people I knew who were just really smoking a lot, and they just kind of just destroyed their brains. One guy I heard, many years later, who had been so smart at the time, was working at the deli counter in a supermarket or something. It's one thing to do stuff a little bit, or to do it for fun, and then it's another thing to just really, be there all day long like these kids, because they just ruin their life. It's hard. I think it's hard to, get out of it when it's that bad for that long, really.
Yeah, it's actually sad to see these intelligent ones doing that, and suddenly you find that they're finished a life. That's a life gone. That's a life gone.
But in Boston University, they had a lot of, a lot of rich kids, and they would be doing, uppers, downers, all kinds of stuff. And then my Colombian, oh, sorry, my cats are going crazy. My Colombian boyfriend didn't. He was completely straight. But my roommate, her boyfriend, and a group of them, the Cubans, they would get Coke sent to them in like greeting cards and stuff, and just never appealed to me. I don't know, just it didn't. But I was happy with my wine. But wine for me is more like, I actually had all these photos. I was going through all my photos, like, oh my God, how many bottles of wine I take pictures of. But it's more like, for me, I don't like go and drink a bottle of wine. I drink wine with food. And, I lived in France for so many years. It's more, and it's not even just social. It's more like, with meals. And so the drinking is not ever to get, I'm going to go, down alcohol to get drunk. The way people go to bars, and like if it's last call, they're going to be lining up.
But are you a connoisseur where you can actually tell us, okay, this is that kind of wine and this has that taste and all that? There's a very technical thing there also.
A lot of it. The problem is that my wine tastes are very French. So I was in a restaurant last night, which was a bit of a disaster because my sister-in-law took her out for her belated birthday because it was during COVID, and then she ended up having an allergic reaction to something. But before that, they said, oh, well, we try to promote Australian wine. So he brought us 2 glasses of sparkling, and it was like, yeah, I'll take the champagne. And there's a couple of sparklings I like, but I enjoy that. I have like conversations. When you talk about dating, when I was dating in New York, I went out once with this guy who didn't drink, and we went to this restaurant, and the sommelier was really interesting. And so we were talking all night, and he said, oh, you want to come visit the wine cellars? I went and visited the wine cellar, and I knew I was never going out with my date again, because I was having more fun with the sommelier talking about wine and stuff. So yeah, no, the thing is I'm fairly not, my biggest problem is I had friends in France who had a lot of money. So when I look at a wine list, I can't afford most of the wines I know. So that's a problem, but I do. And I most of my friends know, but if we go out to a restaurant, it's, ordering wine is going to be, a discussion, but I enjoy that. My husband does too. So luckily, because if not, that I don't think I would have lasted long with someone who doesn't like that. And I buy wine for friends. Like because it's it's not just expensive wine. I'll get I get lots of wine deals that come in my email. I just look and I either delete, or if it looks interesting, I check it out, and then I buy for friends. I'll say, okay, well, there's a dozen here, a dozen there. Who wants what? So I share it around. They pay for it. I don't share it around. But
Okay. So that means, but college otherwise, I mean, in terms of study, whatever you were studying and all, was actually had good professors. Were actually,
yeah, yeah. I had my Algerian boyfriend help me with a paper once, and I got a thing back saying in French, "This was not written by you." So if I get écrit ça. It's so I guess that wasn't a good idea, but short of that, no, I did fine. But again, since I'd left high school early, I was fairly young, and I finished up, and I was supposed to go into law, and I'd done some pre-law. And at the time, it's really funny how you come full circle. I just didn't want to do anything related to business law or corporate law. I was more of a, international, human rights or international law I really liked. And then I was looking at, a lot of the Israeli-Palestinian conflicts, other conflicts. And you saw that, again, from a very naive point of view, but not completely, that countries would sign treaties, and then whenever it wasn't in their interest, they would just flout them. So I was a bit disillusioned, and I had decided, since I didn't go to France during that year of ninth grade, and hadn't had the opportunity, and I was supposed to go to law school because I'd started doing a couple of law courses. I decided to go to France for a year in the interim, which ended up being a very long interim first, and then come back and go to law school. And when I went to do, so you can't just enroll in school, in college, university in France like that. You have to either have gone to, French high school, or done, secondary school or something. So I had to go for an interview at the consulate. Because if you don't speak the language at all, they won't let you do that. You have to go in and take, some course for foreigners. And I had no, desire to take a course for foreigners. So I went down to the interview, and I already spoke French fairly fluently, but I was kind of worried about, my level of fluency from the States and what happens when I'm there, with the real deal. But so instead of being asked questions, we just ended up having a conversation. And he said, okay, go do whatever you want. And he told me about this interpreting school. So I applied for it. And I don't even know why they accepted my application, probably just get the money, because I didn't fulfill any of the criteria, because I'd never set foot in France. So I clearly hadn't spent a year in a foreign country. But I did a degree of applied foreign languages for a year. And then I went to the interpreting school the year after, and thought, okay, well, this is a way I can use my languages and, my, at least, political economic interest in the law. So I kind of deviated for a while, and that's where you have just, a couple of photos. I put it from interpreting in there, so I became a conference interpreter. And then I ran with a friend, colleague, we set up a small company. I was trying to find the letterhead, but nobody has any left anymore, to recruit interpreters and translators and work with each other. So we couldn't really make any money, because it's a 10% margin. It's nothing, but at least it enabled us to work with people we liked, with each other, and organize the conferences. So I did that for a number of years. And then I ended up going back to law school in France, because I was working a lot of ICC arbitrations, and I was working in that's afterwards. That's he put them in the wrong. So that was really funny. The ones before, or no, that's way before. Oh yeah. So the one the lower left and the upper right are just ones I pulled out from France. I don't even remember who they were, but I used to work. That couldn't have been for the ministry, because I never would have gone to a high level meeting like that in France with my hair not tied back. So that would have been a lower level type of meeting, because if it was anything for the Ministry of the Economy or the Defense or anything, my hair would have always been tied back.
but what kind of meetings were you going to? What these
Oh,
were?
everything under the sun. I mean, I would do I did medical conferences, I did political, I worked for NATO, I worked for the defense, I worked for the European Union. And then I started working more and more for private law firms and in arbitrations, depositions. I remember one deposition, they had live note in 2 languages, and I had a woman literally looking over my shoulder to check, because they'd had form or a deposition beforehand, and you have to go to, there's a blocking statute in France, so you have to have a commissioner there. It's a bit complicated. So they gone to London, and the interpreter, they hired someone just, kind of like, one of the problems with interpreting was sometimes they think, oh, the interpreter's kind of like the plants or the lunch, and wouldn't really research as to quality. And the interpreter was awful, and $150,000 later they packed everyone up and went home. So I had her literally breathing down my neck, checking what I was saying, coming up in live note in English and French on each side. So I started doing a lot more legal work, and I ended up having to intervene a lot because of just cultural misunderstandings. An American not understanding, Mr. Power Tie lawyer, that a person who's 20 years old can be an engineer, because in France they go to vocational school earlier, and I'd always have to stop things and explain, well, no, you're not understanding how things are being done, because with depositions in France, if the deponent doesn't want to continue, then you're done. So these American lawyers were just doing that, their horrible cross-examination, and at their risk and peril, because it wouldn't have been admissible. So I did a lot of that, and I started doing a lot of ICC arbitrations, and then I worked on a team on a 4-year ICC arbitration with the lawyers, and then some things happened with my first husband and some lawsuits and stuff, and I had a lawyer who
Where you haven't even got married yet. The husband hasn't come in yet in the whole story.
Oh yeah, that came in somewhere in between. Well, because you spend way too much time on those stupid baby pictures.
Doesn't matter. We have time. That's not a problem. But I'm just thinking
I
that
don't know. It's 9:30. I have to eat dinner at some point now.
But the NATO and EU thing must be interesting. The NATO and all that, those discussions
yeah,
were very interesting.
Yeah, NATO was interesting. It was really funny. You would go into the ladies' room, and I'm assuming the men's room had the same thing, and there would be signs saying the walls have ears, But NATO was like the gray masses, like all the men who worked there were kind of gray. Like you'd go into like the big meeting rooms or the cafeteria, and it was just like gray suits, gray hair, gray people. And then all the secretaries, it was kind of crazy because they would all be in mini skirts and like low cut tops and stuff. Not all of them, but a lot of them. It was just it was interesting. The bad thing about NATO though is it's in Flanders, which is in Wallonie. So in Wallonie, they speak French, and in Flanders, they speak Dutch. So I remember driving one day and getting lost. And I knew it was called Navo, I'm pretty sure Navo, if my memory is correct. And I could actually see where it was, but where I was, that they couldn't give me directions. I was just in like the wrong part of Belgium, but literally 10 minutes away. So at the time, because if I drive up there from Paris, and the horrible fog on that was before the Thalys and the high-speed trains. But plus, it didn't even matter, because if you were there for a week or even not, it was outside in the suburbs, so it was just really hard to get there by bus, and you kind of needed a car. It was much easier to have a car and drive there, and then just drive back to your hotel. And
Would you want to pick up something to eat? Why don't you pick up something to eat?
I'm okay for now. I had a very late lunch, but I thought we were starting at 7, so I sat here from 7 to 7. I don't know why I did, and I double checked today, but I didn't. When I Googled it, it came out wrong. No, we can go on for a bit.
Yeah. Okay, so basically now
I might be getting a glass of wine if I have to get something to eat at this point too.
So why don't you get something for yourself? That's not an issue.
I'm okay for now. I'm okay for now.
Okay, so basically now you're doing all this interpreting and all that, and now law comes in somewhere.
Well, yeah. So backtrack. I moved to Paris. Had a number of boyfriends. I'm not sure that that's of any interest to how many different boyfriends I had, or
we have to know what nationalities, everything.
All. Like I said, I was I never.
But that's a nice multicultural experience. I think what you learn there in terms of the culture, that's the best way to learn, I think.
Yeah, but I was always a bit like that. But yeah, so I didn't have a problem with where people came from. It was more, who they were, and if I liked them, or ultimately didn't like them, but because that happens too. But no, so I did a conference in Reunion Island, which is a département of France. So it's like a state, not a territory. And we went to Mauritius afterwards, which is a neighboring island, which is off the coast of Madagascar, which is where Reunion Island is too, with a very good friend of mine and some others. And so she and I decided to go to Mauritius afterwards on, for a vacation holiday. And so that's where I met the German husband there. But when I first met him, we met and then he stayed there. And I think he didn't, see, this is really dumb. When you're a linguist and you speak 4 languages, or at least 3, and communication is really important, which is how I got to mediation too. And even as a lawyer, it's really not smart to be with or marry someone if you don't speak the same language. So my German is pretty pathetic. I learned a bit. He moved to France. Had he stayed in Germany, I would have probably gotten better at German. I mean, I can get by, but that's about it. I'd go to Vienna for the Wismut, and everyone's like, "Oh, du sprichst das ja gut Deutsch," but I don't. It's my hotel and restaurant German. Anyway, and he didn't speak English that much because he came from the French side of Germany, but spoke some French. But even after living in France, it was just never really enough. But now I lost my train of thought. Why was I talking about? Oh yeah. You asked me. So I met him in Mauritius, and then after some time, we got back together, and then ultimately got married in New York. And I have a picture of someone who
You can share that. You can share your screen. If
Well, no, it's just part of my wedding dress. It's probably not that interesting. It's more a very close friend of the family, and that's going back to when I was 12. Because I should have put years on this. I didn't think of that I didn't think of it. Like I said, we spent like hours today just trying to throw all this stuff together. But anyway, back to that. So I met him in Mauritius, and then went back to Paris, and then there were some issues with lawsuits and a bad deal he did in real estate and everything, and then that's how I ended up going to a lawyer, and found out that she was really not very good. And after a while, and then met actually a very close friend of mine with whom I worked with a small law firm in Paris, and was still really good friends. Came to my second wedding, and that's when I went back to law school there. But what was I looking for? Just a very close friend of the family. The one who kind of redecorated my bedroom I mentioned earlier. And he was a really close friend of the family. And he was one when I was 12 too. He took me into the city and here. Oh, now we're backtracking again. So he took me into the city, and we went to see Pippin, a musical, and we went to La Grenouille, which was this very, very upscale French restaurant. I was 12 and I was so happy. So this is Earl here. So there were these other family photos. How do why am I? I'm on an old computer. It does something really strange with the screen when I share it. So that's Earl, and he was a very close friend of the family, and he passed away. He was diabetic, and he just kept eating whatever he wanted most of the time. So I went down to visit him from when I was in New York. He was living down in South Carolina at the time, and that was good. So yeah, so that's pictures with my sister and my nephew. That was in Canada at the Toronto at the Skylon Tower, and he started sitting on the edge here and didn't realize that he was going to end up at somebody else's table because the thing rotated, so we had to like catch him and drag him back. And so that's my nephew.
What's his name? What's his name?
Marco.
Okay.
And that's my so I did and that Erman Arnold, and he just passed away recently. I don't even know what happened. I have to just literally a couple of weeks. They were kind of my surrogate parents. They were very close friends of my parents. They were younger than my parents, and so when I would go to stay with them a lot when I went back to Long Island where I came from, and so, and as you can see, restaurants were always part of our life style, and still today. And when I travel, that's anything from street food to gourmet restaurants. It's just always really fun and interesting, and I always eat the weirdest things. And my husband's even worse than me. He just does it to do it. But we do. We know if there's duck tongue on the menu in Shanghai, well, you have to taste it. And actually, the most interesting thing I ate that was really, really good, which I didn't expect. I was in Vietnam. I was in Hanoi, and I went out one night. I escaped. I didn't get to go do the bugs because I had to stay with colleagues in a very nice restaurant at the Intercontinental, but not the bug restaurant I wanted to go to. But I went out one night, and I was able to convince them to give me a little bit of everything, because normally they give you a big plate and I was alone, and you're sitting on these little plastic stools on the street, and I ate silkworm, and silkworm is really, really good because it's really crunchy on the outside and like custardy on the inside. So I was always doing things like that. Yeah, and so Marco, so I did a lot of vacations, in Disney World, obviously, those kind of things. And then came a couple of times, did the halfway trip to Hawaii. But now I haven't been back to the
So you're a
States.
major influence in Marco's life.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we have to see how what he grew up to be. That was 2010.
He just turned 18. So he's
So must have
growing
been
up.
interesting. Must be an interesting guy. With all the stories
Yeah,
that you've told him and everything that you must have done with him, he must be
yeah,
the
well, I
most.
took him to get certified diving, took him on a trip on one. He
Uh-huh.
got sent unaccompanied minor to Hawaii and took him around. We traveled around the island and did all kinds of stuff. And
We should have
yeah,
had him on the show. Where is he? Where does he stay?
Florida, forget it, the time differences.
Yeah, the time difference.
Yeah, no, no.
No,
But
because
and this is all right. So this is my husband's family.
this is the first husband, or the present
No, the
husband.
second husband. I got rid of the first husband. This is the one who did the things for us today. So that's his son who's now studying in the States. So that's why he came here, because his son was here. And I always joke because the ex-wife said he needed a father figure, so he brought me. So that's George, his son, who's that was when he graduated college. Yeah, Deacon. That's when he graduated college. So that was his graduation. And he's now doing a master's in Washington. That's New Year's Eve. We did a really low key New Year's Eve in Torino with his father, who's about 88, and Tony, his partner of 35 years, and she's about 88. She's been having some health problems. That was a fish restaurant we went to, and that's just Elio with his father. You can see all the books. His father's retired, but he's a professor of political science, sociology, and you can see he's one of the true intellectuals and still works to this day. And that's actually his mother's grave. And that's one of the times when every year we go, and so his three sisters are here and all like 9 nieces and nephews. So we go every year and they bring guitars and sing. And then
That's
this year
interesting.
we actually were able to go, but normally we do a restaurant before or after, but we couldn't because of COVID. So anyway, I just throw those in there as
But this is
something.
different. I mean, this singing at the grave is it normal? These kind of things happen, or this is just a unique?
No, but my husband is a singer and a guitar player, and now one of the other kids, one of my nephews plays, and he's actually playing the conga down at St. Kilda on the beach now with everyone going crazy at night.
Wow.
But
Wow.
we stopped to see him on the way back from a restaurant, took photos for his mom. But he's really smart. He's like trading Bitcoin and stuff, but playing congas at the beach. So yeah, no, it just depends. Well, so what happens is there's a song that was they used to sing, which is called L'albero è Dio, which is the tree and I want to be buried by a tree, blah blah blah, when I die. And so then I translated it. His sister did a kind of a loose translation into English, but then I got inspired one day and we did a rhyming translation so you could sing it in English. And so that's what the papers are in the hand. That's the laminated translations of the song. So
Okay. So this is the okay. So now the first husband is gone. This is the other one.
yeah, usually that's the way it works unless you live in a Muslim country.
Yes.
Oh no, actually it's the other way around. Only
It's
the
the
guys
other
can
way
have
around. Yeah.
wives, not the women. Muslim or Mormon.
Yeah. Major discrimination.
we need oh please let's not get into that in Melbourne. We'll be here all night. I don't have all night. I have to work tomorrow.
Yeah. Sunday. So you're working on Sunday.
I have a hearing on Monday that I have to prepare for.
Okay.
I do mainly mediation, but I do some arbitration, and I need to prepare for a hearing on Monday. And I'm doing an interview with the Small Business Commissioner. Not an interview; it's a seminar with the Small Business Commissioners who do offer mediation and lots of services to small businesses, especially in COVID. There's actually a photo of her in here somewhere. Hang on, where's my?
But you have to take us through your travel experiences. Those were the interesting
I will,
ones.
but I have to. Hang on. All right. So this, well, since I spoke about her, I'll do that now and then I'll go back. But I don't have, I have to look at the travel ones. All right. So this has a little bit of travel.
So that should be interesting. That's various, I'm sure.
Yes. Yeah, so that's the one. So Judy O'Connell, she's been amazing as a small business commissioner. That was I'm a member of Resolution Institute, and that's one of the events where I was introducing her, and she came as a speaker. And that was great. And this was these are just oh, that's my husband. He misspelled it, but I can't type either, so I can't complain. If he hadn't been around today, you wouldn't have any of these
Exactly.
photos. And that was just me giving an award at the ICC mediation competition. But this is what's most interesting. A very good friend of mine, Delcy, who's an international commercial mediator and a good friend. We would go to Hong Kong together for when Louise Barrington was running the mediation competition, and oh my God, we would share a room and we'd be up all night talking until like 2 o'clock in the morning and then dying the next day at the competition. But she was involved a lot with the Singapore Convention, and she invited me to come to Singapore for the signing of the convention because I'm associated also with her company, and we worked together. So that's us at one of the ceremonies. And this was really amazing because at that time, and it's not to speak about politics at all, but the fact that we had an American delegate there at a time when the US was really completely anti-globalist, anti-international, and that it was the American from the UN, the guy from the UN was American, and that the US signed, and the US, China, Iran, not Australia. We're still working on that. I put in a submission, hopefully one day. It was just really an amazing event to see that.
How many days was it?
Well, I think it was a week. It was called Singapore Convention Week. So this was the orchid naming ceremony, because in Singapore they have orchids, and they never named an orchid after a convention before, only after people. But so there was the signing ceremony, and then there were a number of conferences, and then visits, and of the botanical
So
gardens.
good fun, basically good fun. It was a good
Oh, it was great. It was
week
great.
out.
And another colleague who was there, Rajesh Sharma, who's a professor at RMIT, and he lived in Hong Kong for many years. He was there, and he's a good friend, good fun too. I mean, very intellectual, but really good fun. So yeah, we had it was really great. It was really good. Okay, you want to see some travel stuff that I kind of put together, but then never put into these. What else is here?
When does the necklace come into the picture?
It's recent, but I just wanted to explain it. So I always dress, well, no, I think you have to dress for the occasion, which is really important. So like when I was a conference interpreter, if I was working at the Ministry of Finance, I mean, my hair would be tied back. It would, I'd be, very, not strict, but, and also when I was in my 20s, after I, kind of got out of my crazy 12 to 18, I became very conservative. I had a dress that one of my boyfriends at the time called my Maggie Thatcher dress. That's how bad it was. But anyway, so I would always dress very conservatively. But a funny story, if I was going to go work for MTV, I mean, I wouldn't be dressed in a mini skirt completely, but you adapt. And this colleague who was a bit dowdy, I don't think she'll ever watch this, I won't say her name anyway, a bit old lady kind of looking, middle-aged, like housewife looking, the way she was dressed, went to work for, I think it was MTV or one of them, and she was working for Tina Turner. And Tina Turner was wearing a black mini dress with boots. I mean, just like Tina Turner like. And she turned around and she said, I don't want this thing in my ear. I'm not going to mess up my hair. Get the interpreter out here. And she comes out and she's wearing kind of this brown dowdy, like midi skirt thing. And like, you think like I wouldn't look like Tina Turner, but if you're going to work at a place like that, you dress for the occasion. I think in mediation too, you have to be careful. And I did this as an interpreter also. I mean, if I'm working with trade unionists, if you're working, with coal miners, as opposed to working with heads of state, you still have to dress professionally because your role is one that's professional, but you don't want to, in interpreting, like in mediation, it's, you like, if you're going to build rapport, build rapport, then you want to be able to do that. So I think that it's important. And for me, and I've done a lot of these, webinars online, okay, I'm not wearing shoes tonight because I'm home and it's a Saturday night. But I honestly, when I was in lockdown, I would walk from my bedroom to my living room and I would put shoes on, because if I sat down in a mediation, I was dressed as if I would go into a room. And I always tell parties, I'm going to run this on Zoom as if you're in a room, which means you don't mute and start talking. You don't get up and go get coffee without saying, excuse me, may I leave? And I think that, if I get up and you see I'm wearing shorts, or bathing, so I'm joking, because you see like even barristers that post on LinkedIn, oh, this is the way I'm for my mediation. I hope you don't do that. But for me, it's important. I think that you need to, feel professional to convey the professionalism. So I would never wear this. And I know that there's some mediators in family law who dress like that. But for me, if I'm working, especially with barristers, solicitors, or anyone, I would never wear this. But I love this necklace because it's Kate Durham is an artist and she made it. And I actually went to a human rights conference or presentation. I'm kind of a member of this thing called Human Rights Arts and Film Festival. And I don't know if they're married or partners, Julian Burnside, who's a big human rights lawyer. So it was organized in a part of their, property, this room they have for conferences of the sort, and which is where she does her art. And so we went for that, and I saw her necklaces and stuff, and she's got things all around the house, and they were hanging there. And so I really loved it. And she was so sweet because I couldn't decide if I wanted this one or another one. The other one was a bit less like out there, like this one's asymmetrical. And I was going to Europe for the last time, I think, and she said, take both of them with you, and then you tell me which one you want when you come back. But the fact that it's made by an artist that I know, and it's got all kinds of weird stuff in it, it's not something I would normally wear. And I thought it's not anything I would ever wear. I just wouldn't wear this for mediation unless I was, I don't know, doing like maybe with arts people or something.
Why not?
But
Yeah.
I thought it would be cool to wear it for tonight just to, because it's different. Because you
Exactly.
said it's not about the job as much, but about the, the person.
Person,
So
totally the person. So this is the person. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah.
But
But
what is
it's,
that? What is that horn kind of thing? What
yeah,
is
so there's all kinds of weird stuff in it. There's lace in it. There's oh God, I'm blanking on the name. It's not mother of pearl. Well, there is some mother of pearl in it here, or abalone, moonstone. There's like some chains, and she does all of these things. I mean, there's some. This is a tooth. So it's made of all different stuff with like a paper mache, and in the house she has these doors that she's done the same way with mirrors and all kinds of stuff. It's really pretty cool.
Have
And
you
the fun
managed
thing
to
about that, huh? Go ahead.
have you managed to wear this somewhere for a party or whatever?
Yeah. Just not for work. Of course, yeah. I have lots of long earrings and stuff that I wear for parties. But the interesting thing is, after I met her, I think it was before I got the necklace, she invited me to come to this presentation with a number of different artists at RMIT. And the only thing I'd ever done at RMIT first, my husband has this IT is a degree from there, and then Rajesh Sharma, whom I just mentioned, is teaches there, but arbitration, and we have run the mediation competition there. So I had no idea they actually had this art gallery and this place where they have permanent exhibition, because for me it was always law related. So that was kind of fun.
Yep. But what is that picture at the back? There's a picture at the back.
So that's so my husband is probably, if I'm off the beaten track, he's like way out there. So but when we travel, we always travel off the beaten track, and that they're from Shanghai. But the one on the right is a Vietnamese woman, and I thought it was just really cool because she's holding a gun and she's got her hand out like that because that's his desk to try to keep him in line. And the other one is Stalin and Mao. So the thing is that he was kind of almost a communist when he was younger, and then he went kind of right wing, which is a really big problem. I feel like I'm George Conway dealing with Kellyanne Conway, and I thought of writing to him and say, how does this actually work? But I haven't done that. So, but the fun thing is, so when we were in Shanghai, I don't travel like a tourist, like ever. I mean, I'll go to some nice restaurants or things sometimes, but the things we organized at Shanghai was just we were getting married in Italy, and he didn't know his schedule until the last minute, and the tickets were so expensive that we decided to fly with China Airlines, I think, and there was a 13 or 14 hour stopover in Shanghai. And I said, no. So we turned it into like a 3 or 4 day stopover. So we spent time. So we didn't have a lot of time to organize it, but it was still fine. So I found couldn't go to Shanghai is really amazing. It's so international. I mean, you can go to the opera in Italian, in a play in French. It's just so international, but that's not what we wanted because that's not what we were there for. And there was no Chinese opera, but we found a restaurant which was right near the opera where people would come and do short performances in the restaurants. That was one of the things we did. And then where they come from, there's a propaganda museum. in Shanghai, which you can't find because it's basically in this building, which is a residential building in the middle of across the street from a big foreign ministry thing, but it's in the basement somewhere. And this guy who was running it was just so knowledgeable and so cool. So we spent some time there and brought back some posters and a t-shirt but it was really interesting.
What year is this? What year is this? Which year is this? Which
What
year?
area? What,
Year?
what
Which?
year? Shanghai was 2000, December 2012.
Okay.
So, oh my God, a while ago. Yeah. But yeah, and then we would just walk all around, and it was really funny because it was over Christmas, literally on Christmas, and almost all the tourists were either Chinese from other parts of China or Japanese or Korean, so Asians. And then we saw a group of French people and a group of Italians and like one other, but we weren't in tourist areas really, but even so, you do go to some things or museums or restaurants. And the two of us were kind of big people, especially since we gained so much weight. Walking around Shanghai, it was like we could have just like had a big, sign that said tourist, tourist, and everyone was coming up and they want to have tea. And we met this one guy who was really nice. And it was useful because there was a dumpling place I was looking for, and he knew where it was. And we took him to lunch, and he taught me how to say, bo bo for no. And there's the people in Shanghai are just so amazing. They're so nice. And so we stayed in a really, really nice hotel, but more of a boutique hotel, like off on the bund, like with the views, but away from, all the big hotels all along. I can't remember the name of the street where the, Peace Hotel is and all that. So we could walk to the old town. And on the way there was a big square where we'd go to these markets where they didn't accept any other currency and no one spoke anything. Well, we also went I went to the bird and insect market also there. But when we were walking there, these ladies came up to us and they were like trying to sell us something, whatever. And finally I just said, "Bo." And they said, "Bo, bo, 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 bo." And instead of getting mad like people do in other countries, they look at each other and they burst out laughing and they both start going, "Bo, bo, 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 bo." And like, so everyone's laughing and it's fine. It's not the kind of annoying, a thing, because, there was no way we could blend into anything, especially at a period where there were no other tourists. But
No, but tell me, there's a French area also there. There's a French area in
yeah,
Shanghai.
there's a French area there. There's but there still is a French concession.
Did you manage to go there or no?
We walked around there a bit,
I don't know. I mean, nothing major stuff.
It's more like nice big buildings and some restaurants and stuff. Yeah, no, nothing major. But the thing too is that when I go to a foreign country, I don't go to the parts that are, foreign stuff that I know. So when I went to the when I first moved to France, God, I just wrote to a hotel actually and showed up at the airport and called them and said, "Do you have my room?" And they're like, "What are you talking about?" Like, what letter? And then when I was looking for a place to live, people said, "Oh, why don't you go to the American Church and the American Center and the American this?" And I was like, it wouldn't even cross my mind to go to the American anything because I'm not there to be with Americans. I'm there to, I thought I was only there for a year. Like that changed after a while. But so when I travel, I don't look for, things that are, either American. Like, although I have to say that the Sheraton in Bangkok was absolutely amazing, and they had really good restaurants and local music. But usually, like, I would never go to an American style chain hotel, when I'm traveling somewhere else, unless maybe it's for work. I used to go to Brussels like every week for work sometimes, and I'd go to the Hilton or similar local ones because you're there for work. But I always try to find something that's more off the beat.
Yeah.
Off the beat
No,
track.
this is exactly what I was just going to say. Tell us about those off the beaten track places that you must have gone to. Must be some interesting places.
Okay, hang on. What did I do? I had some travel photos here. All right. Well, let me see. I have to open them before I can share the screen. I've been to a bunch. I haven't been, I haven't been to as many as I'd like, but okay. Well, this is, I don't know, me on a horse in Egypt at the pyramids.
But is there going to be an year? What year would that be?
Oh God, I don't know. A lot of pounds ago. What era? God, when was I in Egypt? I've been to Egypt several times. So, 90s maybe? I don't know. 80s, 90s. I don't remember. Because I've been to Egypt. No, that wasn't the diving trip. I went diving in Egypt and then just went to Luxor, Abu Simbel, and places like that. Then I went. I had friends who were working there from Paris, so I went and stayed for a while. I stayed for about a month in Cairo, and then did a cruise. That was when I did the cruise down the Nile, and then I think I went a third time.
What
But
was
the
it like?
first time.
How was? I mean, one is of course the touristy part of it, but Cairo otherwise. I mean,
Oh, I loved it. I loved it. But I had some local friends there too. I have friends who are Middle Eastern dancers in New York, so they put me in touch with some local people. I was actually at the pool at the Meridian, and this woman, Nagwa Fuad, who was like one of the top dancers, supposedly was there in the pool. It's like, oh my God, I'm here with her. But Hassan Al Afifi, who he had the troupe there, like the national dance troupe. So I met him, and I had an Egyptian friend who gave me the taxi rundown, like the local fare, the people who live there fare, and the tourist fare. And I was staying in Maadi Gida on one of the trips there with these friends because they were all like working in engineering and defense. It was a group French, and then there were some Canadians and other things. And I would go to get a taxi, and some of the taxis would just sit there and they wouldn't take me unless I paid their top fare. And I said, no, I didn't expect the Egyptian local fare, but I would negotiate. So I'd learn how to say, well, first I had to learn how to get home because we came home from a place one night after my friend had dropped us off, and we got so lost because it was like huge, like 10 streets going each way. And we ended up at the police station having to find our way home. So after that, I had to, learn how to say, Alatul, Madrasa Americani, and all the things. I wanted to learn Arabic actually that time, because I learned a little bit of Farsi, and the alphabets are very similar, but the courses were all, there were no courses over the summer, because it was summer the time I was there for the longest period of time. Yeah, so I would, so one day I finally convinced a taxi driver to take me by saying, Ana Nazil Ma'adigi, then I did my whole little thing, and he says, okay. And then the whole way he's talking to me, and I'm just saying, Aywa, which is yes. And I have no idea what I'm saying yes to, but I was just, but it was really cool. So I could take the bus if I wanted to go to Tahrir Square, because the terminus was where I was living, and then the terminus was there too, because in between they don't stop. You just have to jump on and off while it's moving. Now they're not going very fast because they're mules and all kinds of other stuff, on the road, but still you're jumping on and off a bus. And I remember thinking when I went there, oh, if I have to wear a chador, I will. And things have changed. And my girlfriends and the people I've been put in touch with there, they're walking around in mini skirts at the time. But yeah, it was a while ago.
but just tell us, what is the difference between the local taxi fare and the tourist fare? How much is that difference?
Oh, like 100 times or something. I mean, it's almost nothing when you think about it. At the end of the day, at the time, it was really cheap. Plus, the second time I went there, I was able to change money at a really, really good rate. And I took a Hilton cruise where there were only 40 of us. It was 130 capacity. I would have died if there were 130 people on it. And there was an archaeologist and a guy who was working in land reclamation. And we all kind of went off, and because it was in July or August. So we go out really early in the morning, and then come back and sit by the pool, have lunch, and then go out again in the evening, which was fine because there weren't a lot of people, and I was pretty happy with that. Okay, what else do we have here? Oh, more camels. This is recent. This is Abu Dhabi, but this was not a good camel. The dune bashing was like the most amazing experience. You just go in these four-wheel drives up those dunes, and they go up like this and down. I mean, it's just really, your heart's in your stomach, but it's the most fascinating thing. The camels would have been good, but there was this Chinese couple, and she decided she was going to talk. She was actually in our dune bashing car, but she shut up the whole time because of what it was like on the camel at 6 o'clock in the morning. She was, and I'm like,
But in the dune bashing, did you get to drive, or you couldn't drive to do that?
Oh no, God, no,
Should have tried. It would have been interesting.
Oh no, it would not have been interesting. You don't understand. Like you're going up like this.
You don't know where you're going. Yeah, you don't know.
Down like that, or you're going sideways and I mean, no, it's like you really it's like I'm not like a superlative person like that. I've done a lot of things, I dive, I ski, and this, that. It's like, a roller coaster is nothing, but it's almost like a roller coaster in a car on the sand. I mean, literally, you get up to the top and you don't know where you're going, and then it's down and up again. It's amazing. This, I just thought it was pretty because of the I have another one that's not, I don't know where it is. Do I have it in here? But it's in the
But this
sand.
dune bashing one was the one that you did in the evening. You have that whatever, that dancing and then all those kind of things. After that, they have this whole package that they do.
Oh, yeah,
Dune
no,
bashing.
this place was I got part of it through some of my points and stuff. This place was just phenomenal. They had their own property, so the dune bashing was on their property. It wasn't, they had those dinners too where you could do that. Actually, the dancer was Russian. She was good technically, but she had no spirit really. But so they had those dinners and stuff, but it wasn't one of those packages we were staying in. I mean, it's one of the Anantara hotels called Kasar al Sarab. It's just one of the most amazing experiences. You kind of drive into the gates and you're just out in that desert. And it's just really, and it's like a 5-star hotel, which I'd never been to one of their hotels before because I don't make enough money as mediator to do that. But no,
But these are what? Are they tents or are they? It's a proper hotel. I mean, it's
oh
like
no, it's like 5-star. Everything is like super well done. No. It's the, rooms, and then they have these villas if people want to get them as families, and then they have a bunch of different activities, but it's all on their property. So it's their drivers are taught how to do it really well, and it's really, yeah, it's really pretty amazing. What else do we have here? Oh, another camel. Oh, no, that's another one of those camels. Hang on, I had a sand one, I thought. Sand. Okay, here. I don't know if this will work. I don't know if you can't really see it that well on this one, but this is the dune bashing. So you come down off that thing, like literally like that, and through around like those sides and those holes and up, and then you come. So you see to the left of that car, you'd be going down the edge of that thing, like just. The car would be like on a 45-degree angle on the edge of that, and then come swinging around. It was just I don't know if I have other photos somewhere, but I wasn't doing them for these. What else do we have here?
I think the difference is that in the roller coaster, it's all controlled. You know what's going to happen here. It's all unique.
Yeah, no, it was amazing. What do we have here? Oh, this is an alligator hotel up in the Northern Territory, which is really kind of cool. They built it. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's up Luara. I can't remember the name of the town, but it's kind of near West Arnhem Land, which is Aboriginal territory. And we did a helicopter ride, so from the sky you can see that they actually built it in the form of a crocodile.
Mm-hmm.
So they have salties and freshies, but the really big problem in Australia is that the saltwater crocodiles have now, the freshwater crocodiles that now go into the saltwater, and now you have saltwater crocodiles, and saltwater crocodiles are much more aggressive and dangerous, and they go into some of the freshwater pools and stuff. So you have to be really careful and know what you're doing if you're going to any of the swimming pools. And they're beautiful, but you have to go with someone who knows. What else? I don't have a lot of stuff here. Oh, this was pretty cool. So
But I
this
think
is
Donna, you need a wine break. I think you need a wine break.
why? Oh my God, it's 10 o'clock. Yeah. So how long are you planning on keeping me
Totally, no,
here?
this is totally up to you. Totally up to you. But
Oh.
we go through your story as much as you want to take us. Nothing else.
I don't
Look, the
know.
point is those influences in your life, those life-changing moments, all those kind of things. What really? I mean, because finally it's about the person and the person's evolution. Because there are moments which you might obviously, I mean, not maybe coming to you, but I'm sure there are moments which you thought were kind of life-changing. Were they?
I don't know. I'd have to life-changing moments. Well, yeah, probably with my first husband when there were a bunch of lawsuits. That was
Yeah,
life-changing.
that would have been.
That pushed me to go back to law school.
Yeah, exactly. So
I
that's
don't-
major. But in
Yeah.
terms of like, in the sense of becoming a mediator, was there something that changed in terms of mindset, or is it right now still one of the things that you do? So it's still not totally
Well,
there.
no, when I as I said, even when I was working as an interpreter, I was often doing that. And then when I I went to law school in France, and I moved back to New York, and I did an LLM there. And even, oh, here's one of the animal children. One of those photos that you have. My cat's trying to get up on to me. I always had a mediator mindset. So one of the things that I specialized in was negotiating settlement agreements. And I would often be a mediator, even though I wasn't a mediator. I was representing a client. And in some mediations, I had to replace the mediator who was useless, basically. And so I was always kind of mediating or using all those negotiation skills before I did my mediation accreditation, which I did in the States. And then even, it's not really mediating, but it's almost like what we call deal mediation. Whenever I was negotiating a contract or an agreement, it was a matter of trying to find one that would, I mean, nothing is airtight, but trying to find something where you make sure that not only do you dot all the I's and cross all the T's from a legal standpoint, but you look at, what happens, the commerciality, all those different things, the
practicality also, whether it's going to
Yeah.
be. Uh, No, I think
Yeah,
deal mediation is actually is according to me the future. That is where things have to happen. Lots has to
yeah, if you
happen.
can convince the lawyers that they need someone to help them to negotiate, it should be the future, but will it? I don't know. I've spoken on that. I got invited to Hong Kong to speak on deal mediation. It was on Mediate First Hong Kong. The Secretary of Justice has this program called Mediate First that's been in place for several years, and I was lucky enough to be invited to go speak there. It was great because I love Hong Kong. It's one of my favorite places in the world.
But for the food of
There are a lot of favorite places, but I really love Hong Kong too.
but the street food must be interesting there. The street food in Hong Kong must be interesting.
Oh, the street food. Oh, but street food. But the best thing. So in Melbourne here, you can get these champagne brunches, which means you go in, you get a starter and a main, and you have free flowing champagne for 90 minutes if you're lucky. Hong Kong, they have these brunches, and we've done them with colleagues too, with Louise Barrington, who organizes the Vismut and stuff. You go in and you sit for hours, and it's free flowing, like Veuve Clicquot or Bollinger, like good champagne, and then you've got sushi, cooked food, desserts, everything just like amazing. And it costs half the price of what you're paying here. I mean, and it's just like you can sit and have brunch all day and with friends, with colleagues, with anyone. That's I've done it a couple of times, and it's just amazing. But yeah, no, the street food is great. They have great bars and great little places. I mean, I love Hong Kong for yeah, it's really good. And it's really interesting too. I haven't been there recently, but I have friends who still live there. You can go to places where no one speaks a word of English. And then, you go to like the Hong Kong club, and it's like, you're in the UK, you're in London, it's, and there's everything in between. And it's so international too, because there are, so many expats who live there and work there, that it's a really cool place. So, yeah. So these are, right. This is one of the,
But when did you move to Australia? How long back is that?
kind of 2012, 13. It was really funny. I ended up getting my visa while I was on the plane. So I'd come back and forth a little bit. My husband moved here in 2011. So, but I actually really moved here probably 2013. I mean, I'd been here for a couple of months, but then back, and I was selling my apartment and doing things like that. So probably really 2013. What do you want, Missy? Huh? Come here.
Can we get? Yeah, we can call Missy. I don't know, Missy. That's what it is.
No, I just was saying that. I don't know. I don't usually call her that. Well, that's her there in case she doesn't. These are my old ones. This was my beautiful pussycat. I can't believe I imported both of these cats. It cost me a fortune. Quarantine, shots, everything, and they both ended up dying separately. She was really, really feral. So that was my dog. That was my first cat.
When was that? That dog? I mean, how old? That's an old picture.
That was when he was a puppy. He was a puppy there.
Because he's really old.
Huh?
This photograph must be quite old.
The dog or the photo?
Yep.
Yeah, that's from the first husband in France. These guys are the new ones. It's called My Animal Children. Yeah, what do you want? You want food? Is that it? She's a scavenger. So I was just looking to see if I had anything else here extra. I have a lot of wine photos. I just had
So we have lots of restaurants and we have a lot of wine. That's it. That's
yeah.
it.
Oh, here I found this one now. This was, oh my God, my father. I can't believe how ridiculous he looks. So this was my I found this one after I sent them to you. This was my father and his sister and brother
Wow.
a lot of years ago. It was really bad pictures. Yeah, no, wine, entertaining. I mean, as in a non-professional capacity, we love to entertain, to cook, love wine. But with the food, I mean, it's just that whole thing at travel, especially, that's really been a bit difficult. And design, cat, and sunsets. I noticed when I was going through my photos that I have a ton of pictures of sunsets. I had I know what I can do. So if anyone's interested in I have to open one of them up first before I can do that.
But this must be tough for you. No traveling happening as such.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. Just I don't need to. How do I stop the share on this? Oops, what's it doing? That's really weird. That never happened. It won't let me stop the share. Because I don't want to share. I'm just going to share the whiteboard because it's making me share something, and now I'm going to stop it. Speaking of whiteboard, I'm going to show you something about mediation, though. And then I might go get it. I don't have any wine open now. That's where's my mediation?
I should have asked you to put some here only, right next to you.
Some what?
I should have asked you to put the wine right next to you here, so you wouldn't have to.
I thought of it, but I thought if I started drinking at the beginning and didn't eat, it wouldn't be such a good idea. Because I usually drink it with food. Okay, so this is something that's really been interesting in my mediation practice. So I used to I work a lot at the Small Business Commission, and I used to scribble all this stuff on the board. I just kept this one. I mean, that was just the cost of lawyers or whatever. It was a small case, and then sometimes I would forget to erase it, of course, and then some of the mediators would laugh, and then but some of the lawyers, even people would say, can I take a photo of it? So now this is what it's turned into with Zoom, and I can change these things all around. So that's like my pride and joy. So whenever I don't show it in the beginning, but whenever parties start getting difficult, they get this up on their screen. And it's really interesting when if you look at the whole online mediation and Zoom thing. I think that I was talking about this with someone the other day. I think that once we aren't doing this anymore or don't have to do it anymore, I think I'm going to want to have a big screen in the room anyway, because scribbling on a whiteboard, like I use Excel spreadsheets. I mean, the other day I had a PDF, actually it was an arbitration, it didn't matter, but we had certain dates set out, and I just went and wrote the new dates in. So, I didn't have to go take notes and do it afterwards. I think that there's been a lot, there's a lot to say for online mediation, and online dispute
You don't want
resolution.
it. You don't want that to be because for me that is the way it's going to be. I'm so happy with the whole online thing.
I think it's going to be hybrid, to be honest. I've already had, on the last year, I had one in person and one hybrid. I think it'll end up being hybrid in some circumstances. And then online in others. I think there'll be a lot of online, but yeah, I think there'll definitely be a lot of online, but maybe not all.
This has given me so much time. It's actually given me so much more time. So at least you've got promotion of mediation on one end, this golf on the other end. So all that is now much easier, much easier.
But it's tiring sometimes. It's tiring when you come out of a day, you have to really make sure you take your breaks. You're not walking back and forth from one room to another. Sometimes we were trying to say, okay, we have to lose weight, no wine during the week. And my husband, who's always been the worst one, started becoming really good at it. And I would just get, home after like a, I don't know, 7-hour mediation and say, I'm having wine with dinner. No, you said we weren't. It's like, you don't understand. My head's ready to explode. I think that it is good in a way, and it does give you more time, but it can also be more tiring.
I think there you have to balance it out. You have to say that, okay, I won't stretch it so much. Maybe you'll have to do that.
But you can't, because you're there and the parties are there. And, when do you say, because, there's this thing about the momentum. If you think they're going to settle, and, and I've had that sometimes when you just have to stop, because I have one where a barrister had to leave and the client was actually a solicitor, and now they're all going off to court. I spent months afterwards for free, because they're just crazy. They're just two old guys who want to fight with each other. I mean, I think if that barrister hadn't left that night, they would have settled and it would have been signed. So when you stop something, sometimes it gives them time to, I mean, if parties need to either, get advice or they're not sure, you have to give them time to, to think about it or to do whatever they need to do. And you either adjourn or they sign it on their own. But when you know that if you break that momentum, they're going to go down the wrong path and you're not going to get them back, you stay, or at least I do. And I stay without eating and I stay without breaks. And
No, that's what I say.
I've been
Sometimes,
trying to
yeah.
do less of that on Zoom and break and make sure I take breaks. But sometimes it's just so hard to decide when, because, when you take that break, that's when you lose them. Whereas when you're walking back and forth, it's, not if you take a break, to go get a coffee or do something you can, but it's not the same anyway. You're still kind of on the screen in the private sessions where, walking back and forth from one room to another, it's different than sitting at the desk the whole day, I think. So, but it's got its advantages and its disadvantages. So I guess I should show a picture of my husband who, well, we had 2 weddings here. I'll show you the Italy one.
Italy one
Oh,
must be interesting.
well, we ended up having to, so I was in New York and I had to get my divorce done. I didn't even know where my husband was. I hadn't seen him in I don't know how many years. And I managed to do that. Got his divorce finally, like all the papers, the paperwork, you have to get it, stamped and translated and apostilled and certified and blah, 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 blah. So I get all that done. And then I try to go to the Italian consulate. And of course, they're Italian. So they take like 4-hour lunches from like basically all day. And I finally get this guy, Tony, who's talking to me. And apparently when my husband got divorced from his first wife, because he's been married 3 times, so I always joke and I say, I've got one left. But when he got divorced from his first wife, they sent papers from the consulate like 3 years later, which she, vertically filed or circular filed, and saying that, oh, no, you gave us the short form divorce certificate. We need the long form divorce certificate. So lo and behold, like it's, kind of November, we're getting married at the end of December. And we find out that he's still married to his first wife, despite having been remarried and divorced since, as far as Italy is concerned. So he's like going on trigamy here now. So I tried everything and I don't take no for an answer. So I got all the papers, all the everything. And then they finally said, when I went to the consulate, I went in person. And then they finally said, oh, well, you have to give the stuff to Melbourne and then they'll send it to us. And then I said, okay. So I finally gave up. And then there are the bonds, which in Europe means you have to publish a couple of weeks in advance. And so I finally gave up. And what ended up happening is I came to Melbourne and I think I arrived on Monday and I called the celebrant who'd done my visa stuff. And I said, when are you free? And she said, Friday. I said, okay, good, come. And we did a wedding on the roof. And we invited all the people who couldn't go to Europe. And so we had 2 weddings, but this is the Italy one.
Yeah, that should be interesting.
Well, it's just me, my husband, and a cake actually. But and that's my brother out-of-law because my sister-in-law won't marry him even though they have 2 kids together because she's against marriage. So and that cake was a big joke because it wasn't really that big and they didn't tell us, and the whole part up here was made out of wood or something, so we couldn't cut it. So and that was my attempt to have a somewhat Arabic thing on my head. I can't believe I'm saying this on YouTube and it's all going to be recorded and people.
It was perfect.
Listen,
You were trying to get another culture in. Why not? It was a good thing.
what else do I have here? I have a whole bunch of travel stuff. I might go. I don't want to get a glass of wine because no, I think I won't eat. I think I'll stay for a little bit more and then I'll grab something afterwards. So this was, I don't know. This was Melbourne's attempt at doing what they do in other countries, but this was the good year. The year after was a disaster. So, or I don't remember which one this was. This was the they call it White Nights, and you're supposed to dress all in white and bring all. The first time I made all white food, so I had like I can't remember what I made now, but I think I had scallops and like a white salad and everything. And but then I think to get more people and make more money, they let just anyone come. So the year we went afterwards, there were these young girls sitting next to us. It was a big disaster. The bus was late and they basically had a bunch of candy that they threw on the table. and it's just, and it got a little bit clowny and stuff because it's not supposed to be that. It's from originally from Paris, and it's supposed to be elegant. So anyway, that was one of them. Then I have a couple of interesting things.
But how is it living in Melbourne?
Depends on where you come from.
Mhm.
If you come from New York and Paris, Melbourne's small. If you come from a small town, Melbourne's great. I would have rather been in Sydney. I think for my international business, it would have been much better. Much better. It's still Australia, but it would have been better. And I'm a beach bum. We got our boat licenses and jet ski licenses here in Melbourne. I mean, the weather's awful. It's just it's worse than Paris. It's just, and this year, Melburnians every year say, "Oh, we had no summer." And honestly, this was the worst. It's always the worst summer of the year. And honestly, this year was the worst. And we couldn't travel. We went to Western Australia and relaxed for a couple of days, went snorkeling one day. We're about to start diving. And they said, "Oh, anyone who's gotten here from Victoria since December 21st, self-quarantine." So we got self-quarantined, stuck out in this shack somewhere in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. And then had to come back. That was fun. And then we went to like this really upscale place to just chill because we were so upset, and found out that they'd become family friendly. And there was this couple from Sydney, and it wasn't even the kid, it was the mother. They're drinking rosé all day and playing, singing Frere Jacques and clapping and ABC. Now, this is a place where it's an infinity pool overlooking a vineyard with a hot tub. And all people do is they bring books, like literally books, and they sit with cocktails in the pool and read. And the first day we get there, and there are like 5, Asian kids in the hot tub. And it's like, well, because it was a couple's place, but I think after COVID, because people couldn't travel, they decided to open it up. And yeah, so and so the weather in Melbourne's been awful, but we've gotten away a little bit. But I can't find my kangaroo picture. I don't know where I put it. Where is my kangaroo?
Did you send it to me? You didn't send it to me.
No, I didn't send you any of the travel ones because I ran out of time. But this is an anthill. This is like amazing. Like so I don't really like Melbourne that much. Also, professionally, Melbourne is an old boys club. It's like London 100 years ago. It's really funny. I was at one of the first networking things Thursday night, and it's called Lighthouse. It's kind of construction people, more engineers, and it's also a charity. It was set up to help construction workers who had accidents or just couldn't make ends meet, to help their families. So it's set up as a charity, and there were some engineers and other people there who were just saying, they've been here 10 years or so, something like me, from the UK or from here. They're just like, there are no women there. It's a male white barrister lockdown. Yeah. And I see Abe go, and I know Sydney is similar, but Melbourne is worse. It's just, they don't want, I would get things like, "Oh, but are you an Australian?" So when I became a mediator here, I got, grandfather reaccredited a bit. "Oh, but you're not an Australian lawyer." "Well, no, I only have a French law degree and I'm a US lawyer." "Okay, well, because I didn't want to, I started becoming an Australian lawyer, but since I have a civil law degree, they wanted me to take I had to take criminal law. I got out of a lot of the courses, but getting out of it required almost as much work as taking the damn courses. And so I became, "Oh, but are you a member of the Law Institute of Victoria?" "No, I'm just an accredited specialist in mediation." But, it's just like, and you're not, I almost went to the bar just to be at the bar. And then I thought, am I really going to do that in junior to someone? Like, how many career changes and country changes am I, really going to do? I don't mind studying for the things I want to do. I'm, a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, did all that. That's okay. But yeah, so it's very hard here. And I remember sitting on a webinar with Resolution Institute and about 9 white guys. And we were talking about diversity or lack thereof. There are two women, I think, on it now. I've been trying to get some more on. And one of the guys said, "Oh, well, I'm in the mediation committee and we have women there." And I said, "Oh, yeah, of course you do, in family law and workplace, right? How about commercial?" And I had 9 white male faces looking at me. No one opened their mouth. Of course not in commercial. And they're afraid, and they have a lockdown, and they all go and they get mediation accreditation. Same thing with arbitration. They don't even want solicitors involved in arbitrations. Yeah. So when you ask me how I like Melbourne, it has its moments. And then the other thing is just that it's just so far away from everything, which I didn't realize. You think, oh, even Hong Kong is 9 hours. It's just so far. My family's on the East Coast. It's 25 hours. His family is in Italy. It's 25 hours, 24 hours. It's just like it's
Yeah.
if you're so when I lived in Paris, I hated the weather, but you picked up, you got on a plane, a train, and anything. I'd fly to the States in 5 or 6 hours. I'd be in Florida, I'd be in New York. It's they speak about the tyranny of distance, and actually, the pandemic is good, at least for arbitration at this point, because international mediation isn't really there yet, because it's enabling, arbitrations to be seated and arbitrators and practitioners to be hired. And I think that'll be the same thing with mediators for international cases, because you don't have to worry about not being there. And even if you say, oh, well, I won't charge for, travel, it's hard. Most of the people who do that end up having a domicile in each place. Because like Jeff Sharp, for example, he's in New Zealand, but he's in Singapore. You can't not really be there in one of the places if you I think, but I think that's changing.
Right, but are you planning to move from here? Would you go? You would like to go to Paris, maybe?
No, I don't think. No, I was gonna do like part, part Singapore, part Melbourne, try to see that, but then COVID hit, and I was looking at how to go about getting more of that that work elsewhere. But right now I think we're just stuck here. Oh, so if you want something, oh, this is upside down. Oh, this is a cute story. This is me on a horse in Senegal with husband number one. Well, husband number one wasn't there, but 'cause he didn't ride. That was when I was on the good horse. So this was just south of Dakar. And one day I was given the owner's horse, which I think was this one, to ride. Because this was the guy. No, actually, these weren't the guys I used to ride with. It was another guy I used to ride with most of the time. And it was like crazy. You could just like ride right up to the beach, to, where people were sitting, and, I would ride up to where my husband was. And like the horse would be literally on the blanket there, not a lot of rules. But we'd drive down to Mbour, which is just a bit further south. And so one day I had this guy, which was the owner's horse. And we rode down to Mbour, and like, you get to kind of go through all the fishing nets and all the stuff, because they're fishing villages, which is fine. And then all of a sudden the horse starts rearing and doing all this. And then there's this donkey mare thing, and with a big plank attached to it, and it's going backwards and forwards, and I'm the only white person there, of course, and all the little kids in the windows are just laughing their butts off. Everyone's laughing at me, and I managed to stay on the horse. And afterwards I had a friend acquaintance friend who used to breed trotter horses in Paris, and she said the first thing you do is you look underneath. So I didn't realize that the horse I'd been riding was a gelding, and then this horse was a stallion, and this mare was, it was a thing attached to a plank of wood. I didn't even think of it, but it was a female, and yeah. So I gave the whole town a laugh. But I used to ride on the beach there. It was fun. I haven't been riding in a while. I used to ride in Australia too. I actually had a Bromby that I caught, a wild one that had gotten separated from its pack up in Queensland. I stayed up in the tablelands a couple of times. That's what I was looking at, a picture of me with a little baby kangaroo. We throw it in our bag and go to the supermarket. And so I had a friend who was in Australia. This is years ago. I came here never thinking I would ever end up here. I never visited Melbourne. I visited Sydney. And I went there twice, and I was taking care of this ranch up there. So the Melburnians are so funny. So they say, oh, so have you been to Australia before? Like, what are your best experiences? I say, oh, yeah, when you, do you know how to pick up a kangaroo? Like, oh, that kangaroo, wallaby or wallaroo? And they're like, oh, what do you mean? Well, you know how you pick up a cat by the scruff of the neck? Well, you pick them up by the base of their tail, right? So you got to see the faces of the Melburnians. Like, I always did one time. There was this guy that had a kangaroo T-shirt. It was someone's kid when we went out to one of these places. He used to train horses. He was like a horse whisperer. We had the baby. His name was gum nut, but I thought it was governor for about a month, 3 weeks, because I couldn't understand the accent. Governor, it's anyway, the baby kangaroo was trying to jump in his shirt, like, because he saw the pouch on it. But, so, you tell, or I almost got killed by a big gray. And, and like, so when Melburnians are asking you, these, so what do you think about Australia? They're like, oh, they've seen a kangaroo once at the zoo, because it's nothing like it. I mean, if you go outskirts, we have friends who have a property on a kangaroo place, but you don't really see them here,
Mm, But not the.
um
But, but what's going to happen now? Are you ever going to be a full-time mediator? Is that going to ever happen?
Look, I do almost full-time mediation. The thing I like to do also is I like to represent parties in mediations. I think it's really important. And I had a photo there when I spoke on mediation advocacy. I think mediation advocacy is really, really important. Mediation is not litigation. And, walking into a mediation, I say, we say, they say, it's like, yes, you need, and there's been on LinkedIn with Jeff Sharp, some discussions about, do you need, legal? Yes, you do. If you're in litigation, of course, or if there are legal issues and contractual issues, how do you know what your BATNA is if you don't know what your legal position is? Now, your legal position isn't necessarily what your solicitor tells you, is just like, oh, I have these barriers. Oh, we have a 90% chance of winning. I'm like, yeah, really? You're going to guarantee that to your client? Never guarantee anything. You see the client's face, which is why, but you have to have, some of that. And I think it's important, though, to be really commercial. I've had recently a lot more commercial solicitors and barristers. So I've been very happy about that, but sometimes they're not. And I had
Yeah.
someone the other day, a guy I know who's a barrister, basically said, I don't like mediators. I don't use them because, I'll get a tenth of my fee if it settles. I mean, literally. And I've had other people say this too. And I've heard partners not hire mediators anymore because they settle too quickly, or expert witnesses who are like, yeah, mediation is good, but after we've gotten our fee. So I think there's a really big problem with being focused on the client. And when I went back to the US and I did my LLM, I went to the big orientation thing, and I'll never forget, class full of, young and some not so young students, but, mostly out of, uni there. And the ethics professor is doing the presentation, and she's talking about this, that, and what's important, this. And they're like, oh yeah, drafting contracts, billing, litigating, blah, blah, blah. And I just sit there and I wait, and I raise my hand, like, because it's what's the most important thing. I said, the client. Like, no one would, it didn't even cross any of their minds. And that's what's really important. And that's why mediation is so useful, because it is commercial, but it's important to have a commercial oriented advocate in a mediation if you're going to have an advocate. I mean, if you're on your own, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not so good, because if you have, I had a small mediation the other day where I had this, I do a lot of retail leasing too. You have a party that English isn't very good. They come with a support person who's basically there to just sit there so they're not alone. And they don't understand what's going on, even if the other side doesn't have a solicitor, if they've got a property manager or somewhere, so I think, it's really, that's a really important job for a mediator, that power and balance, but really also the advocacy. So that's why I like to represent. I represented a party in mediation once where I knew the mediator, and every time he came back to the private session, that was the days when you could walk back and forth. I'd already told my client exactly what he was ready to say. So it was, because that's what's important, you can't have, you can't just tell clients that they have a good case and you're going to win. And that starts from the beginning, because if you get a client who comes in, and that's the only kind of law I like to practice, that in contract negotiations and contract drafting. If you have a client who comes in and you say to them, okay, this is great, we're going to win, okay, I see these facts, this is the law, it supports it, blah, blah, blah. And then you get to mediation. You can build as many golden bridges as you want. Like, how do you enable that solicitor or barrister to save face by saying afterwards, yeah, well, maybe it's only a 40% chance of winning, or maybe, so I think that there's, in Australia, at least, I don't know about elsewhere, but even in the States, there's in commercial division where I used to work in New York. I mean, they have just mandatory mediation all the time in a lot of the courts here too. So if you're going to have to go to mediation, and that, you need to prepare, even as a litigator, differently than if you were just going straight to court. because then the client doesn't understand anything. So for me, that's really important. Teaching advocates how to represent their clients in mediation as opposed to litigation, even arbitration.
Yeah, but the main thing is that you'll have to catch them young, I think, because you'll have that whole mindset has to start developing right when they get out of college. It's a totally different path. You just tell them it's a different path altogether, and I think that's how it's going to work.
And some of the universities here are actually integrating, mediation, negotiation, arbitration into the, coursework and for the law degrees. Not, well, here it's different. You don't go to like your 4 years college and then graduate school like we do in the States. So, they're going to be caught early if it's done then. And I think that's really important. I think that's really important.
But Abe, do you want something? Want to ask Donna something? Yes.
Thank you very much, Donna. What a fascinating story of your life. And it hasn't finished. Still happening. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I think, there's something in common between you and I, that you met Najafad and I have met her as well. Najafad from Egypt. I met her in Lebanon, not in Egypt. I just want to find out from you. Sorry?
Libnani? I was wondering.
No, I'm not. I'm not Lebanese. I'm Palestinian.
Okay.
You can discuss Palestinian conflict and everything with him.
Yes.
I've had.
We need more than one session.
Exactly. But Abe is coming on the 7th. He's going to be here on the 17th.
Yeah. I just want to ask you, Donna, you have a very rich life in terms of the people you have met, the people who entered your life one way or another. Who was the most influencer on you, who made you who you are today?
The most influential.
Yeah.
Well, maybe my father in some ways, but because that was my whole, the law was always from when I was very young, but I'm assuming it was partly because of him. I haven't had mentors the way people who end up getting a kickstart in their profession have mentors, unfortunately. But I have had some teachers or a solicitor, an avocat in Paris, who became a very good friend, and I was studying for my law degree and working with them in Paris, and that was really amazing. I think that really helped. And then another, my international commercial arbitration professor in New York, who were just people who really, did influence me like that. But I mentioned Howard Zinn earlier, the guy who went to jail and had us teaching there. And he was someone who did too, especially compared to the other guy who was such a hypocrite. So there've been a couple along the way. It would probably be my father more than anyone else, I think. But there have been some or others. And one of my problems is, I always tend to compare myself to the people who are, really at the top, as opposed to the ones I'm better than. That makes it hard sometimes, because being hard on yourself. What do they call it? They call it the imposter syndrome now. They came up with some new, philosophy thing to describe it. But yeah, I think that, just off the cuff, there might be others here and there. Actually, a really funny story, and I was supposed to put this on LinkedIn, but I didn't because I was kind of embarrassed. But my father loved this story. So when I decided to go back to law school, because this is a person who's influenced me, and I actually have her book that I'm about to read now. I was living in the south of France, but I was still working in Paris, and I wasn't sure where I wanted to go to law school, what would be more convenient for studying, especially because I traveled all the time for work. And so I went to Nice Law School to see, and it was really nice because you could see all the palm trees in the Mediterranean. And I went there, and then I went there again. And the second time I was there, I think it was on a weekend, I heard people speaking English. I'm in France, right? So, it's not normal to hear people speaking English walking around a French law school. So at some point, I don't remember if it was the second time, I stopped this couple, it was a man and a woman. And I said, "Excuse me, why are you speaking English?" Basically, with my big mouth. Why is everyone speaking English here? And I said, "Oh," and she looked a bit taken aback. Just, "Oh," you know. And they said, "Well, because there's a program with an American school, go up and see." It was Susan Tiffenbrown at the time who was running it. So I went up and she said, "Oh, how are you? But oh, you want to participate? Great." And she said, "Okay, well, we're having a lecture whatever day it was, come along." And I come along, and to my great embarrassment, the keynote speaker is Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who's the woman I walked up to and said, "Excuse me, why are you speaking English?" I ended up going to law school in Paris afterwards anyway, not because of that. And then when I came back to the States, I was going to go to Hofstra, but because that's where she was teaching at the time. But I decided to go to Cardozo instead. But yeah, so it was really kind of funny, and and my father loved that story. It's like, "Excuse me, why are you speaking English?" The justice of the Supreme Court, and and it was just, and they were dressed kind of casually too, and you wouldn't never think that's the person who would be walking around a Nice law school. I mean, it wasn't even like Paris 1, Panthéon or anything like that. Anyhow, so but that influenced me, and I saw some of the movies, and I realized that she had someone who supported her a lot, but when you look at what she went through, what she went through to even just become a lawyer, what it was like at Harvard then, and sometimes I wonder if it's that much different in Melbourne these days, and you're in Sydney, so yeah. But it's really interesting, the cultural thing. So I don't know about you, but even when I'm working in these small mediations, so I think that I always use a lot of levity, like humor, because that's my personality. I think you have to have your own personality, but I also, have these different cultural things. So and in the last couple of weeks, I've had 2 Palestinians in my mediations, but I felt like a Palestinian with an Iraqi, or a Palestinian with a Lebanese person. And and I can usually tell by names more or less, not 100%, but I know the North African as opposed to the other. And I have Italians often, so I'll speak to them in their language, or just say like yellow or whatever, and it really works a lot, because if they don't have confidence or trust in the mediator, and just by showing that you understand a little bit about their culture, it just it really goes a long way, I think.
It's very important. Absolutely agree with you with the humor in mediation. As an icebreaker, it can do wonders.
Yeah, it has to be. I think you have to be really, really strict on the process, especially on Zoom. But then, people are stressed. They're in disputes. They're you have to relax them a bit. And again,
Right.
it depends on your personality. If you're not a funny person and you try to do it, it probably
Exactly.
won't.
You have to be able to carry it. That's the main thing. Yeah. You can't
But I'm
force.
really, yeah, you have to be able to do it. And it's like, even when, you go to law school and, everyone sees on TV how the perfect, you have to do it the way. You can't just copy someone else's personality, no matter what you're doing in life, But you have to be really strict on the process on Zoom. I'm really strict. If people, oh my God, the other day I felt so bad because I had I was sharing a screen, and I didn't realize that they printed it out, and they were looking at the printed copy, because as soon as people are doing this and this and this, I stop. I just stop. And I wait for them, and I ask them. They said, "No, we were just looking at the thing." But I tell them that. I had one guy who sent me a thank you note saying, "Oh yeah, it was really great, and I'm surprised you only had to mute me twice." He kept talking over everyone, and I tell them in advance I'm going to do it.
And that's the good part. That's a good part of Zoom.
They mute themselves and they start talking, and I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I say, if you wouldn't do that sitting around a table, which is wrong, because I've had people do that sitting around a table, but they don't know that.
Have you ever had any mishaps during early days of Zoom?
Do I think what in the early days of Zoom?
Any mishaps, like something that
Um,
unusual during Zoom because we all experience certain issues in terms
yeah.
of people listening and
Well, I'm pretty good with that. No, I've had things where the technology, like, oh my God. So I'm going to go and do one day. thankfully, it was just two individual parties. The internet in my office just goes down. I had to do it on my phone. I thought I was going to die. But luckily, if it was more than two, I would have had to cancel it. But I've had that when I'm going onto somebody else's Zoom. I was doing a presentation for VCAT for all the members at, VCAT and mediators. And we do the test and I get on and nothing works. So I always have, and when I do my presentations on what to do, I always have, I didn't have it tonight, a little, my AirPods there just in case, because I've got a webcam, microphone, speaker,
Yes.
and everything, but got two big screens. But yeah, no, it does. I'm really careful about screen sharing. Like even now, I'm only pulling up one thing at a time to share because I didn't have them prepared in a way to share them. But yeah, oh look, yeah, stuff happens. I can't remember anything in particular. I'm pretty computer savvy, luckily, but I mean, with parties. Oh, I remember one day towards the beginning, there was a solicitor. I kind of heard, you have to be observant. Just heard something in the background. I said, I'm sorry, where are you? Because he had I'm blanking. What's the thing called? What's the screen when you have
virtual background? The virtual
yeah,
background?
virtual background. Sorry, yeah.
Oh, yes. That's
2011, I haven't eaten yet. A virtual background. And I said, and he said, oh yeah, I'm in a open plan office and it's just another lawyer there. I'm like, okay, confidentiality agreement, here you go, like just another lawyer. I had that before before COVID. I was doing one once where same thing, I heard something and saw some movement. I said, excuse me, who's that? Because one of the parties wouldn't come and then the other party wouldn't come in. So I've done some of these before. Oh, it's just my wife. No, just your wife doesn't work. Just your wife signs a confidentiality agreement. It's or a guy, a solicitor went on really late. And I don't know how many kids he had. It sounded like he had 10 kids and it was virtual background and they were all having dinner behind him. And it was like, can't you find another room to go into? Yeah.
yes.
But I don't think any, people, so one of the things I always do is I ask for mobile phone numbers as a backup. And then when people have technology problems, and I've had cases where people out in the farm in the middle of nowhere have been a lot better than their lawyers when they've been really worried. But what I do sometimes is if people have really bad connections, I want them to keep the video on either to see them or to screen share. But then I have them dial in. I have them turn the sound off on their computers and dial in with a phone. So yeah, so there've always been mishaps where someone gets booted off or we can't find them, or like they're in a car, like, hello, you're really doing your mediation in a car? But so yeah, it's mainly people having bad connectivity. And or in the beginning dealing with interpreters, this was mainly through the Small Business Commission because the interpreters weren't allowed to use Zoom. So you had to call them on your phone, keep them on your phone. They were talking through your speaker, or it was just like, it was the most awful thing. And
It's very challenging.
yeah.
So
But
Donna, but no
now
other. Yeah.
oh, sorry.
No, please go.
No, I just said now that they can, like, as long as you can have them on Zoom, it's easier to manage them.
That's right.
Okay, so any other life-changing experiences or anything that you want to tell us? Things which would have changed the mindset, would have made you a certain kind of person? Anything? Things that you might have taken for granted. I mean, things that you would have not even thought about, but anything?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if they're mind changing or life changing or. I think it's just the whole combination. Yeah, having lawsuits with my ex-husband didn't really help. But then again, it sent me back to law school. He got involved in some bad, deals, and then I ended up helping out lots of things. Like I said, I was already thinking. Well, I was already thinking about it because I was getting bored, being interpreting what the lawyers were saying and not being able to tell them what I thought. I could tell them what I thought when I was working with them on Teams, but so I think that was definitely life changing because I decided to go back to my original career, which is what I was supposed to do in the beginning, and I had. And I enjoyed the interpreting for a long time. It was great. I had lots of colleagues, still friends with them. Traveled. I had a picture of the best and the worst was we had a conference in Guyana, French Guiana, and then another one in Norway, which meant that they had gotten a special permission to go down and into the Amazon, where you're not allowed to go without government position, where all the indigenous people live, and we had to leave to go fly back to Norway for an Hermes cruise a meeting. But the one thing we got to do is there were some people who went to see Ariane, and it ended up it wasn't they canceled the blast off anyway. So they went to go see it, and basically they got taken by a bunch of like civil servants through to visit what they were allowed to see and have an awful lunch. Not an awful lunch because it's French anyway, but and I thought that doesn't really sound that good. So I organized a trip, and there were 3 other women who came with me, interpreters who were there, into not really the Amazon, but a little estuary of the Amazon. And so the guy who was going to take us down there shows up, and he's wearing, a pair of ripped shorts, like bathing suit shorts. That's it. Right. And he has, like a couple of teeth. And his name was Roger, but since he had no teeth, it was Roger. And that's Creole. And so Roger was there, and he had a Yorkshire, a little Yorkshire. Somebody had given him this dog, right? So, I mean, Yorkshires are like the kind of things that French ladies, carry into restaurants, right? So we're there with Roger and his Yorkshire, and we get on this boat thing, and we get these raincoat things, and he's got a bottle of rum, and that's about all we've got on it. And we're going down to this place where I don't know, they had butterflies. I don't even remember. And the dog is yapping, and I'm like, I can't believe I am like on the Amazon, basically on a boat with a yappy dog, because I like big dogs. You saw my dog. Beep, 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 beep. So what does he do? Just make the dog stop yapping. Takes the dog by the scruff of his neck and dips it in the water, takes it back out, and the dog is like this. And when it starts yapping again, he does the same thing. Then we were traveling back to go to Norway because we had to get on this cruise, which would have been great, except for we couldn't stay where we were, which would have been really nice. Oh my God, my cats are whining all over the place. They're hungry. Anyway, so and one of my friends who I had a picture of her, but she's a very, very good friend. And we're on the plane, and we had a stopover. I don't know why. We had a stopover in Abuja in Nigeria. And all of a sudden I look out the window and I see her walking down the tarmac to the terminal, which is like, a house thing, whatever. I'm like, what the hell is she doing? Like, she had no clue. She didn't even realize she just got off the plane because there was a stopover there. I think it was a refueling stop or something. So we had to go back and drag her back on the plane, and then went up to this cruise. And it was absolutely beautiful. The fjords up in Norway. Those were some of the good jobs I had once upon a time. I wish I could find my little kangaroo. Oh, and another thing we did, which was really amazing, they organized up in Uluru, Ayers Rock. Last year we went opera Australia. So it wasn't a full opera because the people who were going there couldn't really maybe handle a full opera. And honestly, I was never really into opera. My husband's an opera buff, and he sang, not professionally, but he still sings. And so this was the Opera Australia people preparing in the back, and the stage was set there. And that's in the middle with Uluru and the field of lights in the background. So that was a really pretty cool. We'd been up there before, and but found a local guide through some people I knew. So that's why we were out there eating witchetty grubs. And so witchetty grubs are these little wormy things that live in the bark, and they're much better raw actually than cooked because they're softer. So hang on, I have one picture here. No,
but what about your husband and his music? What does he do there?
What does he do? He tricks me because he was only supposed to have 6 guitars, and he has like 12 of them, and he keeps making them and sticking them on the wall. The wall in the other room is covered with guitars. He sings opera and Italian music and like Georges Brassens and all kinds of like old-fashioned stuff from the 70s, 60s, and then some other stuff. And he also plays the guitar and sings. But so he sings opera. So this is very cool. I will show you this picture. So when we were in Uluru the first time, that time we just went up for the opera. I had two things I did. I don't do like big bus tours because I get crazy on them. So we had someone who introduced us to a local guy. So we did we had a 4-wheel drive, but you have to have a permit. You can't go into their lounge on your own. So but he did because he lived there. So we went off with him one day, and then we did what's called, they have a small this one outfit that does very small tours. And it was really funny because one of the Aboriginal guys who lived in the Mutijulu area had some people from Sydney, I think, visiting. So he ended up on our tour actually to go see the Aboriginals. And they said, well, you never know because they might show up, they might not show up. So Cave Hill, there's all cave paintings and stuff, but they all showed up, and we had about I don't know how many of them. This was only kind of half, and they gave us the witchetty grubs, but they cooked them on the thing, so they were a bit harder. But I was having fun because they were in shock because I knew how to get them out of the wood. So I went, oh, I'll help you, and they're looking like, yeah, white chick. Let's see that happen. But our guy had taught us how to do it like the week before. So because they're in the bark and you have to see them and you have to be able to pull them out without breaking them and stuff. So these were all the and she was the one who was staying with one of the local guys. And then these were all the people. They just kind of rock up like that. You know, you kind of go, and then one knows you're there, and they either come or they're busy and they don't. And they were so funny. So we shared our lunch with them, and they were all so happy, and we had a really great day there. We've done a lot of really good travel in Australia too, actually, but I have to keep you here all night if I was going to start showing more pictures. But I wish I could find my the beach is my favorite place, really. I don't know what I did with my I lost my little kangaroo. No, lost the kangaroo. Can't seem to. This is one thing that was really cool. So when I was in Paris about, I can't remember which trip this was. It wasn't the last trip, it was the one before. And I find out that some friends of mine, they're one of my coolest Australian couple friends because he's Indian and she's Chinese. And we've never had Chinese food because he's an amazing cook and he never lets her cook. But he does he does like raw goat that he buys from the guy who goes and, picks the goat and kills the goat. He does all kinds of really amazing food. So that's Puneet. So it was in Paris. So I ended up meeting them and taking them to this restaurant. His sister came over, sister or cousin from somewhere else. And then Patrick, who's another French friend, who's they're now living in Cambodia because she couldn't get, his wife was French also, his teacher couldn't get her visa extended, but they were living in Australia. He happened to be in Paris. So we all ended up in this. I found the restaurant, and the little boy ate kidney in the French restaurant, rognon. So that was really cool. But it was kind of fun to be back in my hometown and have people from, all over the world, but from Australia come and join us. That was one of the photos I saved. I was just looking for my kangaroo, which I don't think I'm going to find.
How big are the kangaroos? These small ones, these babies?
Well, the one I had in my hand was a baby, so so it's really funny. Well, Julie was like the house kangaroo, like the way you'd have a dog. They had a dog too, and when you have the babies, though, she wasn't allowed in the house, which was really hard because basically this is out in the middle of nowhere. She wasn't happy because people were moving in 5 kilometers away and invading her privacy. It was really that when the creek was up, you couldn't get in without a 4-wheel drive with a snorkel. And I have 2 cats here now waiting for me, but
I think
they'll wait. They'll wait. They're used. If we go out, they do it anyway. So so she had a license to raise kangaroos. So whenever either a kangaroo would be injured, she would take them in, or if the mother died, she'd take the joey in. So we had a joey, which is a baby kangaroo, the one called Gumnut Governor or whatever it was, because I never understood its damn name for like 3 weeks. But so the house kangaroo, because I've been there twice. I've been there once, and then I went back to take care of the ranch because she had a ranch hand who was illiterate and couldn't read. And by the time I got there, they changed, so I didn't have to do anything really except for cook once in a while, and ride horses. And so she had these kangaroos. So she had wallabies, wallaroos, and the joeys, the babies. They're really small, So. And it's really funny when you have to take them out to, they don't like go to the bathroom by themselves. So in order to make them pee, you tickle their stomach. So it's so we were there, and so she had that, and then she had all these other things in cages and ducks and possums and everything. But the big grays and reds usually were really far away. And one of them decided one day, we were washing the dog because the dog got fleas because it's living out in the middle of nowhere, even though I've been to the vet, and I get bitten by bugs, so I got attacked by the fleas because it was a Labrador, so I used to like sit and put my legs on top of him. It was not good. And this big gray came up from behind. So normally they were all down in some separate area. And I saw the guy I was with, his face blanched. He just was white as a sheet. And I just felt I have really good peripheral vision. And I felt this presence. And there was this big kangaroo and the claws are like amazing, just standing behind me. And I don't know if it was a second, 30 seconds, or a minute, but I just didn't move and it left. And it was just like, because they never came near the house. But, she'd been away for a while. So I don't know what happened. But so we've had some fun.
But are there any chicken in the story? Because the joke is that everyone had some chicken in the story. Somewhere, right? It started with Ken. There was him selling chicken and eggs. So everyone has a chicken story as part of that.
No, but I have friends who live in Bury now near, and they have chicken or chucks, or as they call them. And he would go out and get the eggs. And every day when I went out there were no eggs. So the chickens were not laying eggs for me. I was very unhappy. But it's kind of like fishing. So this is my favorite place to be in the world, which is where I was in Western Australia when they kicked us out this time.
Nice.
That's what it looks like there. And then this is, oops.
Must be
This
good. Snorkeling must be nice here.
Oh, amazing. We actually got to snorkel this time, but that was about it. And this is our beach paraphernalia. So we go, and we did another trip to Western Australia where we, like rent a car and then, an esky. And so as much as I like to go to, upscale restaurants, this is, the picnic. That one, I don't think we had the esky on that one, but usually we'll just go for the day. And my husband brings computers sometimes. It's kind of crazy, and just sit there and enjoy the beach, which is beautiful. So I have koala pictures, but everyone's seen those. I can't. These are kind of amazing. I don't know why I have more of the Australia pictures here, but these things are like really fascinating. These are anthills.
Wow.
And so then there's some place where there are just so many of them, but this is how high they are. And when I was staying down at that ranch once, we were riding and I was kicking the smaller ones, and then I had all these ants in my laces, which it teaches you not to kick anthills when you're riding on a horse. But they're just like it's amazing how big some of them are. And those are just made by ants, like little tiny ants.
These are they're not red ants. They're the normal.
No, I don't think they're fire ants. They have those in Florida. And these are our lovely friends up in the Northern Territory that you don't want to ever be swimming with. Maltese, yeah. A bunch of pictures of those. Anyway, there are a ton of pictures. I could be here all night, but I don't.
Tell me, what have you been to Papua New Guinea?
No, I haven't. I've never been there.
That should be interesting. I don't know.
I don't know. I find it. I don't know. I don't really know much about it, but I know that you have to be a bit careful there too. I think it can be a bit, violent or aggressive. So it's not really on the top of my list. Like I've been to Tahiti, Vanuatu, Tahiti. I was only there for a couple of days. I found it was outrageously expensive and typical French, so I can understand that at the hotel they charge you $5 for a coconut, but the guy who just picked it off the tree is going to charge you $5 for it, but Vanuatu is nice. Fiji I've been to. I love Indonesia. But that's just cats again. And places like that. But yeah, Papua New Guinea never really I haven't had the opportunity to go either, but it's never really been on the top of my bucket list. Um, but hey, they're hissing at each other. They're playing. But
But I think these
yeah,
guys, they're smart enough to get their own food. You just keep it somewhere, and the cat's smart enough to just.
oh God, you don't want to know. No, because I have one cat that's a scavenger that inhales everything, and the other cat who's this prissy idiot who likes to graze, but he'll eat a little bit. So you have to pet him to make him eat. He purrs when he eats. So basically, this cat, I never wanted this cat. My husband loved the cat. He was adorable, but he already had litter box problems when he was a baby because one of my friends, her daughters had fostered him. So basically, she fostered him and she knew nothing about cats. So she didn't clean the litter box. And when they were sick and they went, in other places, she's like, oh, poor things, they want their privacy. I'm like, are you a moron? Like really? So anyway, but the cat, so we have to feed him separately and lock the door because if not, she'll eat her food and his food. So feeding is, it's worse than having real kids. So no, that doesn't work that way. Unfortunately. Oh, wait, here, this is really important. So this is not a very good photo, but then again, neither is the one of me here on the screen. So this is really important. It's not really just mediation, but it's everything. And that's from the challenge. So in the challenge is promoting diversity. I mean, it's gender diversity, but there are all kinds of other efforts for all types of diversity. So we had to all do a photo like that. Well, we didn't have to, but we wanted to. It's to, I challenge the old boys club. I challenge the the fact that only, I mean, if you look even at international arbitration, there are a lot more women now, but even in Africa, you end up having, white people, nominated, appointed as arbitrators. And I wouldn't mind if I were one of them, but seriously, it's just, it's not just gender diversity, it's also cultural, ethnical diversity that's just completely lacking. So that's the challenge, which is this, I don't know what it is. It's just, it was part of International Women's Day. So I thought I'd put that up there.
But I thought there are lots of women in mediation. I mean, or in commercial mediation, aren't there lots of women?
Yeah, the problem is in some places they're like here, they're not really in Melbourne. You don't get that much of the work. You've got a male barrister locked down on a lot of the work. It's barristers, QCs, former judges. And then in Melbourne, there are a number of solicitors who, so there are a bunch of guys who maybe 5, 6 who have a large portion of the market. And people always go back. I mean, one of my friends, colleague, acquaintance said, oh, do you do this or that? Oh, because we always usually use the same 2 guys because it's just easier. They'll be accepted. I've seen it. I've seen when I'm appointed, the names that the parties have put forward when they haven't been able to agree. I was speaking to a woman, a female lawyer at this thing recently, and she said, in 10 years, she's never had a female mediator. But for litigation, I mean, yeah, family law, workplace, sure. And I see Abe is shaking his head.
He does a lot of community mediation.
Yeah.
He does
Well, I
that.
do a lot of small business commission, but I mean, in Sydney, I think Sydney might be better than Melbourne, but
It is.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. But yeah, it's I had no idea. Like I said, my experience in Australia had been, I've been to Sydney. I camped all the way down from Cairns to Sydney, hung around with kangaroos and stuff and horses. And I had no idea what Melbourne would be like. But, you have to be here for at least 10 years to start getting work, really, which is unfortunate. It shouldn't be like that. But I guess that's the way it is. But things are changing. Things are changing a lot. But it's still slow. It's still slow. I'm still trying to find my little kangaroo picture. I don't know where I put it.
But when do people change to daylight saving time? Daylight saving?
I don't know, but it's going to
Because I was
be.
thinking with Abe, I should do it earlier. Abe, we should do it earlier with you because it's getting late for you people, isn't it? I guess late at this
I'm
time.
not-
It's 11 o'clock. Okay, well here this isn't the
I think I think we
Yeah.
have to start earlier. That means.
Yeah, well, especially when I thought you were starting at 7. So this isn't the baby. This is one a
Whatever.
little bit bigger than the baby one. Because the baby you could just put in your pocketbook and take to the supermarket. So that was me with the kangaroos. So you see how I'm holding him by the base, holding it by the base of the tail?
Yes.
Yeah.
But you can't keep them as pets, can you?
I'm sorry, what?
Are you allowed to keep them as pets?
No. No. This place where I was, she had a special license to take them in. She was allowed to keep one as a pet because she had a license for it. And she, would nurse them back to health or take the babies. And so we were like feeding him with the baby one we had with the Joey with a bottle. But no, you can't keep them as pets. They're like wild animals. Although you get crazy people that have, I don't know if they're crazy, but who have tigers and hope that they'll still stay tame. But no, you're not allowed to have them as pets. I mean, you can have them on property, I guess, if you're there. But anyway, I don't know. Is there anything else that I'm happy I found my kangaroo photo because
We still have to find the baby, I think.
yeah, I don't know where the baby is, but I knew I had that photo. So at least that one. This you asked about in Abu Dhabi if they had those dinners. I have a picture of the dancer somewhere. I don't know where she is. It was really cold, and actually it was in January, and it wasn't even that warm during the day. But that was the dinner outside after it was over.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah, we've done a lot of good travel. There's so many photos in there that, but yeah, I think I don't know. I think it's 11 o'clock. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you should. You both of you, I think it's late for you. I think with Abe, I think when he's coming on 17th, I think we'll have to do it earlier with him. But this
No, but
gets
I'm okay to do it your time.
no, we'll do it. We'll do it earlier for sure. But this
Yeah,
gets late for you.
I'm a night person.
No, that's okay. But
No, I kind of am too, but maybe not. No,
Thank you very much, Donna. It's been a pleasure listening to your life story. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, I also it was really funny because I felt so bad because with Vikram when he said to me last week or something photos, I'm like, what photos? And then I looked at Andrew's. I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Look at all these. So
you did a good job. You did a good job. Lots of them. I mean, you got enough. Of course.
Yeah, it was actually kind of or like I said, it was really a blessing in disguise because I have these boxes and they were just so many of them were sticking together. So I haven't organized them all, but what we did today when I was looking for the photos for here, all I went through some of my photos online, but that's going to require a lot more organization. But I at least put them. We got these big white envelopes, and I put all the travel ones or the family ones. So I've already got them at least now instead of just being thrown in boxes. So that was. Abe, are you on LinkedIn?
Yeah, he's there.
Are you on LinkedIn?
Yeah. I'll send you his. You just have to type Abe Quadan.
Yeah, I'll put him in. Okay, well, thank you for staying and listening. It's really nice.
Thank you very much.
My husband was really happy because he was able to go out and to eat friends on his own after helping me all day long.
Thank you very much, Donna and Vikram, for organizing it.
Yep, thanks.
Thank you.
We need
Thank
to
you.
I need to actually get a lot of.
What?
I have to get more Australians involved, but this time difference is. I think we'll need to have more.
Yeah. We'll make it now.
Yeah. I think you can leave at that. Yeah, see you. 17th, we'll fix up an earlier time for sure.
Yeah, the 17th. I'll send you some photos as well.
Yep, perfect.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. See you.
I hope I'll be able to make it. I'm looking forward to logging on because sometimes Saturday is a little hard with family stuff too. Even if it's earlier, it's just so the 17th. I think I'm free. I have something on the 16th. I'm not sure. I have to. I'm pretty sure I'm free. So that would be great. Okay, I'll try to find you on LinkedIn. So
I sent you his profile,
okay.
in a message.
Oh, okay.
But I would have actually, Donna, I'd like you to come on next Saturday because Ken Cloak is coming back. But
What's the date next Saturday?
the only thing is, it's for your time. No, it'll be very late. It'll be middle of the night because it's
Oh,
going to be 9 o'clock India time.
That will be about 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, that's a tough one for you people.
I was up till 2 o'clock in the morning last night because someone got sick and I had to call an ambulance and get her care, and we stayed up really late and came home. But I can stay up till 2 o'clock. I mean, if I go out and I'm at something, but starting at 2 o'clock, it's just
Yeah, it's a
really.
tough one. It's a tough one. But what do you do? We have to balance out this time thing. I can't do because it's 8:30 in the morning for Ken Cloak, and he can't do it anything. Can't do it earlier than that. So it's a tough one to balance.
Where is he based?
He's in California.
California, yeah. Yeah, it's terrible. Like with Arbitral Women, the board meetings, I mean, for me, they start at 11 or 11:30 at
Mm.
night, and then the people in New York are up at 7 a.m. and but one of the meetings, it's easier if you're not going around the whole world. It's just
Mm.
Yeah.
so I have an idea, Vikram.
Yep.
We should make you get up at 1 in the morning. No, I'm joking.
It won't help you, people. It won't help you.
At India time, let's just do it where I actually did that on a committee recently because they would always have Paris time, which was fine for the Parisians. And then I would be up late at night. The New Yorkers would be up, in the morning. I'm like, well, why don't you guys be at night and we'll be at a normal time? And they like it hadn't crossed anyone's mind, I said, well, we'll alternate, not, I'm not saying you should do that, Victor.
No, but for you people, it won't work because 1 o'clock here is going to be 5:30. After daylight saving hits, it's only 4.5 hour difference. So it'll be
But it
middle of-
depends with daylight saving time, because daylight savings time in Australia isn't the same time as in the US or Europe. There's a 1 or 2 week lag.
No, it's,
Yeah.
I think starting from 4th April. They've already started. They've started. The US has started
Where, in
already.
the US, they already went on to, have they?
Yeah.
I haven't.
It becomes a problem. It actually becomes a problem because I actually ended up that was a webinar, so not an issue. I landed up 1 hour late. It had already finished where it was finishing. This is an issue now.
Yeah, no, it is. It's hard because I do a lot of international stuff. And I remember at the beginning of COVID, it was fantastic. You'd come out of a mediation or whatever, and I'd be like, oh, great. Now I can like log on to Singapore, and then I'd log on to Seoul, and I'd be like going through Asia, with the time differences. And then by the end of the night, I would just be so zoomed out. And I did that for a while. And it was great because you could attend all these different things. And then it was too much.
I think
That was the only advantage of being in Australia, that when they were doing it, earlier, I could do it at the end of my workday, but.
Oh, no, it's a tough one. It was. For us, it wasn't so bad, but for you people, definitely, it's a tough one.
This is, I've lived in, the States and in, France, and I've never had, time zone issues like I've had here.
Yep. Perfect.
Okay,
So,
well.
Thank you, Donna.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. God, I hope this is interesting for anyone who's listening to it.
Of course it will. Of course
That's
it's going to be.
fantastic. Thank
I
you.
couldn't remember anything from my childhood. We should have skipped to a bit later, right away.
No,
what's
that's
happening?
good. Look, it takes a little bit of time, but the whole thing is that if you don't go through your journey, through the full journey, of course, there'll be lots of things which happen in a person's life, but each little thing matters, I think, somewhere down the line.
No, it does. It's a matter of, but it's interesting to think back. But and I think I was been a lawyer or a mediator my whole life. Actually, like I said, I was always doing that. I can't even remember specific instances, but just always, coming in, intervening, helping people, resolving stuff. So, but it's good. Oh, for some reason my LinkedIn has crashed, so I can't. There we go. I got it.
Yeah.
So you're a lecturer too.
Yeah.
Excellent. Oh, I'm going to connect with you then. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, we know, apparently we have 33 mutual connections. So Cambodian Center for Mediation. Oh, that's interesting. Do you know Delcy Lagones de Anglim? Delcy has worked a lot. Delcy Lagones de Anglim. She's worked a lot in Cambodia.
Yeah, we think a service there, a mediation service. Yeah, I mean, they have it, but it's not really as organized as we are in Australia.
Oh, oh, really good. Options mediation service. Excellent. Okay, well, I've connected with you on LinkedIn then, so
Would be
thank
nice.
you so
I'd
much,
love to.
shukran.
Thank you.
And hopefully I'll be able to see you on the 17th.
Yes, you should. And of course, I'll send you the invite for all of them. But if whenever you can make it,
But when they're at crazy hours, I don't. And then sometimes if I have, we social things, it's kind of hard. But I think the 17th is open so far.
yeah.
But
10th will be about our time. Was that 7:30 only about our time? So that'll
yeah,
be.
no, it's Saturday night though. Sometimes with my husband, like if we, he wants to make plans or we make plans with friends, it's a little
No, the
hard.
person, but the person who's coming on the 10th is very interesting. He's a solicitor in the UK, but very interesting person. It would have been.
But that's the one. Wait, which one's that?
It's Sarosh Zaiwala. Sarosh
Wait, but when
Zaiwala.
the 17th? I thought the
10th. That's the
17th.
10th. No, that's the 10th. That's the 10th. Abe is coming on the 17th. Abe is
Oh,
coming on the
okay.
17th. On the
But
10th,
the UK one's going to be in the middle of the morning, right?
in the sense it's going to be about 7:30. 7:30. I have to check again, but it'll be 7:30 our time. So but only thing is now going to be a 4.5 hour difference. It won't be 5.5. So it'll actually be about 12 o'clock. It'll be midnight.
To start.
Let me check with him. Let me see if he can try and schedule it a little earlier. But you people will still not come. Even if it says 11 o'clock at night, you won't come. So that becomes a problem because on the other end, we have the people on the.
No, 11 o'clock, starting something at 11 o'clock at night.
Exactly.
If I go out to dinner and I get home, I can log on at 11. I remember one time I had this thing, it was 1 a.m. and I think it was my birthday. We did this big birthday dinner at home because we couldn't go out. It was COVID. And it was like 12:30. And we were just kind of waiting and like trying to stay up.
That's a tough
And
one.
then
Because what happens at 7:30, at least the people in Pacific, they can join in. For them, it's still about 6:30 or something, things like that. So that way for them, it's one.
On YouTube and make comments.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Well, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
I won't shut the meeting. If you people have to leave, you're my guests. I can't end the meeting.
Bye.
Bye. See you.
I hope that was okay, huh?
It was very nice. It was very nice. I think
Oh, was it? Okay, good. It's just really hard to talk about yourself. I'm not used to that.
You have to get used to it. This is what we need. Mediators have to start talking about themselves. They need to.
No, that's not true. I talk about myself, but not like in a specific thing with photos and remembering stuff that I
No,
can't
actually, I'm
remember.
telling you, people should know the person, because this is totally a person-oriented thing. It's nothing else. And just to know the background, they might connect to something. If they know about you, they hear about you, they actually go through YouTube or whatever. They might connect to something which can give them that confidence or the trust or whatever. So I think knowing the life history of a mediator, I think is important.
Yeah.
I think that's
Okay, well, thank you so much. Denevad, which is the only word I know. But I do have a sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know where it's in a box somewhere, like all the photos, but and I've never been to India. I just now it's really
That's really
it's on
surprising.
the top of my bucket list, but right now I don't know when I'm going to be able to go anywhere.
Look, my whole idea is, of course, to develop the mediation with a pool of mediators from outside, because we don't really have a pool here, and things, according to me, the whole court-related mediation is not letting the profession develop. Because
I know, and India's doing a lot of outreach. Even I noticed, whether it's in mediation competitions or even in the VIS with arbitration, there's so many Indian schools and teams, and they're doing so well, and a lot of interest through Southeast Asia and
So from the institutions related, at least the government has got the mediation as part of the curriculum now with the law schools. So there will be an interest in it, but the main thing is the work has to come in, and people should get work. And this court thing, like I'm telling you, they get nothing. The people in the court annex mediation centers, and that really doesn't let the profession develop at all.
Yeah, I was invited to go to Goa to train, but they don't really pay for much, and I would have loved to have gone, but it was just it's really hard to take off a lot of time and then have to pay for your own flights and everything. But I'll get there one day.
You will.
Okay, well,
Okay,
thank you so much. And I will see you on LinkedIn, if
Yep.
not on one of these.
17th,
I
I'll
will.
see you. So 17th. For some time, you can drop in for some time on 17th.
Yeah, no, I get all the invitations. It just depends on
Yeah.
what time they are.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna leave so you don't have
Yes.
to.
I'm not, I can't shut the meeting. So you have to. Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.